What is
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell him.
He called me.
Good news.
Oh, he doesn't click. Then he was like, I don't know. Oh.
Like Peter.
Yeah, so I posted it. Jason, you get it? Right.
Like, okay. I
I
think
need
that's
to
what
Worried
you're
about starting on time.
I know, but like,
Cool.
I
Yeah.
didn't want to go there. I do that too. Guess worst case.
Each other, yeah, go.
I don't know if they.
Don't forget.
Please.
Where am I?
You're right here, Bob.
Oh, thank you.
You had that little
App again?
little hook on your.
Yeah, somebody gave that to me.
Him with the key.
Okay, but-
Shit.
I mean, they do all look
Okay.
Agenda right there. so,
like
um,
that. We can never unhook our keys.
Next. Kevin.
The left.
Okay, good evening. We'll call this meeting to order at 5:02 PM. Tonight is the board workshop, February 17th, 2026 of the Escondido Union High School District. I'll establish a quorum. We have Board Member Weller,
Here.
Board Member Journey,
Here.
Board Member Vincent.
Wait, I got small arms here. You just turned it off. One more time. Oh, I got one of those. Here.
All right, Board Member Williams.
Present.
And Board Member Knight is here. So our meeting announcement is that this meeting is being webcast live and recorded. The recording or webcast may capture images and sounds of those attending the meeting. I will introduce our interpreter at this time. There will be a Spanish interpreter for this meeting. Meeting attendees who would like to listen to the Spanish interpretation of the proceedings may pick up headphones by the table located in the back of this room. And this announcement will now be shared in Spanish. Por favor.
Muy buenas tardes. Si necesita interpretación al español, por favor visítenos en la parte trasera de la sala. Gracias.
Thank you. And our Pledge of Allegiance this evening is going to be led by Board Member Weller. And
Ready, begin. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. And next on our agenda for the board workshop this evening is a career technical education presentation. And that is going to be presented by Ms. Mia Funk. And I will turn it over to you. Thank you. Oh, by the way, our Director of College and Career. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, we're good.
I'm here with my colleagues, Vivian Caronco and Carissa Duran, and I would like to thank you for the opportunity to look at the future and imagine what CTE may look like in Escondido over the next 5 years. We're going to begin with where we are now. Vivian?
At last week's board meeting, we shared our growth we've experienced in CTE. Currently, we have 2,100 students engaged in over 30 CTE pathways across the district, which are shown on the screen. That number increases to 2,500 when you count students who are engaged in more than one pathway. Each of these pathways supports our shared vision of preparing students for college, career, and life. We prepare students through a number of opportunities. For example, early college access is made possible through articulation agreements with our local community colleges. Other opportunities extend to industry partnerships to provide work-based learning experiences such as CTE student organizations, career workshops, guest speakers, industry field trips, internships, job shadows, as well as industry certifications. These reflect some of the student interests that our student board members mentioned last week. These pathway experiences provide our students with a chance to truly become career ready.
Now, as the policy landscape shifts, now, as you know, the national policy landscape has been shifting in favor of career readiness, with national, state, and local planning creating really exciting opportunities for us to reimagine what it looks like to prepare students both academically as well as for the real world of work. Vivian and Mia alluded to some of this at last week's board meeting. At the federal policy level, the Trump administration recently released America's Talent Strategy, which modernizes and aligns CTE with industry needs to prepare the next generation workforce for the next generation of work. And at the state level, California responded to this new strategy by updating their career clusters framework, which is shown here as well as on page 3 of your supplemental documentation book. Yeah, it's on the table. California's new career cluster framework intentionally bridges education and work to ensure that students are prepared for their future. Reorganizing the previous 16 industry clusters into 14 new career clusters, including 3 new cross-cutting clusters, which acknowledge the ways that the workplace is shifting in light of both economic and technological advancements like artificial intelligence. This redesigned cluster framework supports California's recently released CTE state plan, which further bridges the world of work with the world of education by strengthening alignment with community colleges, being responsive to local industry needs, and creating interdisciplinary opportunities that equip students with the ability to transfer essential knowledge and skills across industries. Now, as this policy landscape continues to shift, we have to meet the moment and make the necessary changes to come into alignment with these new frameworks. Because change is already required, we thought about what it might look like to use this time of transition to really reimagine what CTE could be in the Escondido Union High School District. So the first option we'll present is a conceptual overview of what it would take to redesign one of our schools into a flagship CTE program that fully integrates CTE with academics. We recognize, however, that a full school redesign is a tremendous undertaking, and for that reason, we will go through option 2, which unpacks what it takes to redesign our existing pathways with the updated career clusters framework, as well as leveraging what we're going to call guaranteed experiences to amplify the student experience at each of our existing sites. And finally, we'll dive into what it would take to simply meet the state planning timeline and update our CTE programs to align with the new guidance.
We'll begin here with an overview of a full school redesign, what it could look like. We're beginning with this model because it encompasses the other 2 options. You'll have the opportunities to see the full scope of change supported by our new frameworks. For the purpose of this workshop, we will use Escondido High School as an example of what it looks like to transform one of our comprehensive sites from its current state into North County's premier CTE academy, which will bring us to the 4 areas that we'll cover. First, what does it look like to design academies around the new career clusters? Second, to support a CTE academy redesign, how might we renegotiate time to increase flexibility in support of expanded CTE opportunities? Now, expanding CTE opportunities brings us to part 3, our guaranteed experiences. These are opportunities we'd like to offer all students in the form of connections and to build with industry experience. And finally, we'll discuss the core part of any transformational change, preserving our school culture and ensuring that the treasured aspects of the EHS legacy are preserved in any potential redesign.
So an academy model would create unique experiences within the school for various cohorts of students. The 3 sample academies shown here, cultivating resources, building and moving, and creating and experiencing, are drawn directly from that new career clusters framework that you just saw. These academies would be designed to fulfill all required coursework by fully integrating pathway and academic coursework that's required for both graduation as well as CTE completion. And while the full academy program would ideally be designed collaboratively with our educational and our industry partners, this 4-year overview shows what an academy model could potentially look like. Students would explore each academy in the 9th grade as they build foundational, academic, and college and career readiness skills, and then choose an academy to pursue for the remainder of their high school experience. Students would then have opportunities to extend their learning through both existing as well as emerging CTE experiences, such as student competitions, industry placements, as well as other work-based learning experiences, which then culminate in CTE pathway completion by the time that they reach the 12th grade.
In the academy model, students are cohorted and follow a specialized program of study, which is a sequence of courses aligned to the academy cluster and the pathway that they choose. The programs of study designed for these academies would ensure that all students meet the academic requirements for graduation, as well as specialized requirement necessary for their chosen career path and minimum state college entrance requirements. Pages 4 and 5 show an example of 5 potential cluster-aligned academies, which include the existing EHS pathways.
We know that time is often a barrier to change. As we expand the CTE opportunities, students and teachers will need flexibility to ensure that students meet both graduation requirements, as well as have access to off-campus industry opportunities and early college programs. One way to provide flexibility is to consider alternative scheduling that may fit the new programming. Traditional schedules are helpful because they're recognizable, and they allow more frequent student-teacher interactions, and they're slow pacing. 4x4 block schedules are powerful because they allow students to earn more credits each year. This allows flexibility for both acceleration as well as credit recovery. It has also been shown to allow a deeper focus in learning as a result of taking fewer classes at a time. Here you will see while students are able to meet the same requirements in a year, in a 4x4 block schedule, it provides students an opportunity to earn 80 credits instead of 60 credits in a traditional year. On page 6 of your handouts, you can see these schedule options more closely. And on pages 7 through 20, you can see sample schedules by cluster for both traditional and 4x4 schedule options. They demonstrate how coursework would engage students in order to meet both graduation pathway requirements. It's on the handouts.
The booklet.
Oh, then. This. Yeah, starting on page 7.
As we work to create that flexibility, students will have a better chance of being able to personalize their academy experience by identifying the skills and certifications, work-based learning, and early college access that support their unique college and career goals. The academic and industry opportunities are referred to as guaranteed experiences. Page 21 in your workbook presents an overview of sample guaranteed experiences by grade level.
And while these changes do have the potential to provide students with the experiences that they need to be successful in this changing world of ours, we know that the traditional high school experience is also powerful and cherished. So in any potential school redesign, we want to ensure that students have continued access to engage in athletics at the highest levels, to participate in the arts, and also have access to rigorous academic coursework. The academy model, paired with alternative scheduling, creates flexibility so that students don't necessarily have to choose between college, career, athletics, and the arts. If we do this right, they really can have it all. And we know that was a lot to cover. We also know that change like that takes significant time. So in the next option that we're going to cover, we'll identify which pieces of that full school redesign we can leverage to be able to embed within our existing programs.
Option 2 includes 3 key components. The first component, which is required by the state of California, is a realignment of our existing CTE courses into the new career clusters framework. With your support, we have the opportunity to improve the other 2 components, early college access and guaranteed experiences. To give students more access to guaranteed experiences, such as earning industry credentials, engaging in internships, or earning college credit while still in high school, we have to shift some resources and priorities. Additionally, we can focus on things like expanding early college access, which gives students more opportunities to earn industry certifications offered at our local colleges. We currently have agreements in place with each of our local community college districts. We also need to consider how to reallocate resources to support additional early college access and trade experiences. For example, funding allocation for busing would allow us to transport a group of students, like the picture shown, to Palomar and to participate in several industry certification courses.
And finally, we'll discuss what it means to simply meet the state timelines. To meet the state timeline, we need to realign our CTE courses to this new career clusters framework. The framework recognizes there are cross-cutting concepts and skills that transfer across industries, and that careers require durable skills, which ensure students being prepared to enter their careers. Our pathways are already strongly aligned to this new framework, but we still need to refine some of the coursework through extended curriculum projects to fully bring them into the new alignment. For example, the standards have changed, which means that we will need to meet the new state timelines, and that's on page 3 of the handout, to incorporate these new standards. This would also necessitate curriculum redesign that focuses on interdisciplinary skills, knowledge, and competencies by each of the clusters. And of course, because these are major shifts, we need to revisit CTE teacher credentials, placement, professional development to ensure that our organization is prepared to manage this change. Another important component of these updates that we want to include is that we're ensuring our data systems and messaging are in line with this new approach. And that you'll notice that we have some common language on page 22 that begins to orient us to some of the language and priorities in this new era of CTE. We presented these 3 pictures of change as options to choose both between, but we can also imagine them as phases of change over the next several years. So this implementation timeline, which you can find at the end of your work booklet, begins with what we're doing here today, casting a vision, exploring possibilities. We'd like to continue with a full CTE audit to better identify gaps and opportunities, and we can begin the required realignment process. Over the next couple of years, depending on the outcomes of the work, we can begin piloting some of the new cluster redesign, build capacity of our teachers and administrators through targeted professional learning, and explore and implement systems to better support expanded industry experiences. And the final stage, depending on the available resources, capacities, support, would be to expand these change efforts up to and including a school redesign. Thank you for your time, and we are really excited about the future. Come back down if there's any questions.
We ask questions. Okay, cool, great, excellent. Thank you so much for that great presentation, by the way, appreciate it. Do you have some questions that you want to ask? Or, okay, go ahead, because I'm going to go and ask a bunch of them, so I might as well let you guys go through.
Sure. So, first question is from the academy model. I mean, the academy model, as I saw it and was described, it sounds like best of everything wrapped up into one. So I'm not sure I understand the difference between what an academy is and one of the current comprehensive sites. No.
So in an academy model, the courses are oriented towards the industry sectors. So this math may be or construction or related areas. They may have some interdisciplinary focuses. We have been starting doing some project-based learning that Mr. Rand has been supporting, but this would be fully inclusive of those industry sectors. So it's just advancing what we've already been doing into something a little bit more specific towards those industry sectors.
So for example, you know, if you're adding more stuff, you have to take away some stuff sometimes too, right? So for
Correct.
example, would you have less AP classes or less other electives that we might normally have that are just more focused on CTE?
That's a great question. So it depends on the format that we have. So in a traditional schedule, students have 6 classes a day. And so that model does require some massaging of student schedules to make sure that they have all of the courses that are required. If we do look at other alternatives, such as a 4x4 schedule that builds in additional classes, 2 additional classes each year, which allows additional flexibility so that we can have students access additional coursework.
In other words, if we switch the 4x4, you could throw all of this extra CTE stuff in a sense.
You could.
I'll also add that there's, and Ms. Funk and the team mentioned this, there's an integration of subjects, an integration of content. So this is a bad example, but you would have like HVAC English 10, right? And so on everything that they would be learning in terms of rhetoric, prose, all of that would be somehow tied to, if they were getting certification in HVAC, to that career.
Just like math, right?
Industry.
If you had for geometry, right, that's very much
Correct.
connected for
Construction.
building.
Correct.
And those courses do exist through the University of California Curriculum Integration Project. The university supported high school teachers to create these integrated courses. So there are some districts that are currently using some of them.
I will add, speaking to the distinction between an academy model and what we have now, it would require significant teacher buy-in. Because if you're a humanities teacher, an English teacher, and you say, well, now you have to teach HVAC English instead of your traditional English 10, it's a big sell,
Sure.
right? So,
Yeah,
Or opportunity for bringing in industry like co-teachers, so that way your English teacher may not be the person facilitating the components of HVAC, but rather you have some other teacher, so there'd be more potential for co-teaching.
yeah, 100%. And I think the HVAC experts would be doing the HVAC teaching. They would have to in these programs, the way it's written and funded. It's just that all the other core content areas would somehow be integrated into the career that the student may or may not want to explore, right? And so there is a shift in the curriculum there. But still, English is still going to be taught English, like
Right.
reading and writing, rhetoric, right? So
Can you explain the difference then between like what block scheduling, where you've got your 6 classes, but let's say on Monday you do your 6 classes and you have a short day, and then Tuesday you do your 2-4-6 class, Wednesday you do your 1-5 class, and like that, versus what's the difference between that type of schedule versus a true block 4x4 block schedule?
yeah. So right now, most of our comprehensive sites, students are taking 6 courses at a time in a semester, which is about 90 days, right? And you do that for a year-long course, multiply that by 2, that's 180 days. So overall, a student in our comprehensive sites, they take 12 courses in 180 days. In a 4x4, they're taking 4 classes at a time for 45 days at a time. That's a grading period. So essentially, a course that they would do in 180 days, now they would do in 90 days. We call that a term, right? And so, for example, if a student did English 9 in a 4x4, they could feasibly be done with English 9 from August to December. They're done with English, right? And feasibly, if they wanted to continue in their English curriculum, they could take English 10 from January to June. So essentially, they'd be taking 2 years of English, and they're done in their 9th grade year. So in summary, in our current system, they take 12 courses in 180 days. In a 4x4, they could take 16 courses in 180 days
And
or more.
question then, from a teacher perspective, why would somebody hypothetically favor the traditional model over favoring a 4x4 block schedule? Help me understand that.
Yeah, I've been through a transition, so it is something for teachers that have never taught in both systems. As with anything, and it's human nature, right? I mean, you're accustomed to doing business a certain way, and that's all you know. You're going to hold on to it because you're like, this has worked for me, right? But traditional arguments that you might hear is students need to see my content area every day for 180 days, right? It is possible in a 4x4 where a student might have a gap. For example, the one we just used, right? We probably wouldn't tell a student finish 2 years of English in 9th grade. We'd probably say, okay, in term 1, which is August to December, you've taken English 9. Now you will not take English 10 until the following school year. Do something else like a CTE course. So English teachers might say, no, they need to be writing all year, right? Which they can do in other courses. They'll read in other courses, but those are arguments you might hear. That's especially true of things like world language, for example, and AP courses, and AVID and BAND in particular are the ones that are the most vocal, especially with AP courses. Exams are traditionally in May. So regardless of how you look at it, right? If you're in term one, you've taken the AP course and you finished all of the curriculum from August to December, but you're not going to see that teacher again and the test is in May. It's like, well, how am I supposed to practice, right? There's systems you can build around that. See kids every other Saturday, build in 07th, et cetera, right? But that's an argument. On the flip side, it might be worse. Now, if you get the AP class in the second term from January to June, well, now you're supposed to finish the curriculum even faster before May. So you've lost a whole month of covering the content. So those are all valid arguments. Avid is used to seeing their kids all year, and so is Band. So those are the groups you would hear from the most: World Language, Avid, Band, and AP. But again, there's plenty of other examples of high schools being successful, even locally, regionally, et cetera.
Yeah, I
So,
see a lot of schools
yeah.
heading in that direction.
Right.
Reading a lot, 4x4, and it seems to be very successful.
Mhm.
School districts.
And because we're a district of choice, potentially you would have these unique features at different schools for that very reason. Should you want a model like this, perhaps you would go to the academy school design, or if you want a more traditional program, you could go to a different, one of the other schools. So I think as we're looking at this, the goal might not be to do this at every high school. Obviously, it would be to set up a model at one school that could have all of this as a possibility.
Right. And the way we presented it with the team was redesigning a school is an option, or we could just redesign and expand all of our CTE programs at all of our sites. And we just picked Escondido, just an example, not because it should be at Escondido by any means. Just wanted to clarify that point. Yeah.
Probably get some.
Yeah.
feedback.
Yeah. Is it 4x4 schedule 5 days a week?
Yes.
Do it have an A week, B week?
AB, I'm not following.
So 4x4, 4 classes a day,
Yep.
right? For
45 days, 5 days a week, 5 days a
5 days
week,
still.
5 days a week.
Okay.
Yep. Same 4 classes. So it is faster. It is faster. So absences become really important because now you're not seeing a class every other day. You're seeing them every day for arguably 90 minutes a day. So we have to get kids to not miss school.
Mhm.
It's even more important.
Yeah, but it's also more effective during the day. You have less changeover periods.
Correct.
Less issues for problems to happen in between classes and
Mhm.
that too.
Third, what I've seen, it increases the academic level too, because they are consistent. The down point, you miss a class, it's going to be harder to catch.
Right. And there's less subjects to focus on as well.
Exactly.
So as a student.
But what I've also seen is when I've been on classroom walks, I've seen sometimes in classes, the transition from one activity to another takes so long. When you're doing a short class, that's less than an hour, your transitions take up half the class. Like when you gotta go and, okay, everyone get a laptop or get a device and, okay, yeah. So the block schedule would be a whole lot better. I like that better. As you were showing me the options on that, I'm like that academy model. I like that. And the 4x4, I like that. And it's like, oh, that's all in option 1. Now I had a question because you said meet the state timeline. I missed which timeline that is that we're trying to hit.
Oh, sure. So the state revised their standards. They have a 3-year phase in. So phase 1, it will be arts and media, and we'll have about a year and a half to transition into that. That just happened November. And then phase 2, next November, the State Board of Education will release the standards for hospitality, public safety, and then we'll make sure that we're meeting those standards. And then phase 3 is November of 2027. There's additional paths.
Okay.
But
that's something we'd be meeting those standards, whether we're
Doing
doing
it.
option 1 or 2 or 3 or 4.
At any rate, we're going to be looking at all this.
Okay.
So if we're looking at all of it, let's look at everything.
So I got some questions to ask,
Sure.
if you don't mind. Is everybody,
No, I have a couple follow-up questions.
hey, go ahead.
me
You
keep
want to
going?
follow up? Because I've got like
A bunch.
We can jump
Okay.
down, David, too.
I had
Okay.
some questions related to the certifications, and you talk a lot about in this presentation specifically about dual enrollment specifically with our community colleges.
Yes.
I'm a big fan of our adult school. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but I'm a big fan of the adult school, and we have a bunch of certifications at our adult school.
Yeah.
And while I appreciate Palomar and Miracosta and these others, I mean, why not try to keep our students within our district and leverage those certifications or opportunities that they have within our own adult school that don't have limitations, let's say on age or things like that. And I know historically the adult school is intended for those 18 and over, so there isn't that competition perhaps with us trying to put kids into our adult school, and that's not at all what I'm imagining. I just am seeing more opportunity for our kids to do that within our own system, let's say.
So, and part of it, we were talking about the extended CTE experiences that could include internships, and we could partner with adult school for some of the internship.
Right.
So that's specifically what we were
Talking about, yeah, and I know from the healthcare perspective, that's something that would be like a dream of mine would be for our students to be able to graduate high school with, let's say, a medical assistant certification or a certified nurse assistant, a phlebotomy certification. And those are things that we're already offering. And I know that there might be some age restrictions and those types of things. Like I look at, let us know so that leading into November 27, we can be advocating at the state level for whatever needs to be adjusted so that that isn't impeding our ability to work together with our own adult school. And if we need to rename it, maybe adult school isn't the right name for it. If there's another way that we could look at what we're offering at our adult school to fit better with the CTE model curriculum and framework and all of that, I think we could reimagine our adult school if that name seems to be more of like a hindrance or something the kids don't associate or don't connect with because they see it as their parent school or an adult school. Like
Yeah.
there's ways we could work
Market it.
around that and change that a little bit. So that's what I would want to look at.
I love that. And I also think that we can look at some of the foundational classes that students have in their early years of high school that really build their skills for when they do transition to adult school, like the human anatomy or physiology or other courses they can take that satisfy their life sciences that will give them just one more leg up to transition.
We've got some great programs at our adult school, especially with the medical path. But even the other day, I saw an advertisement for a welding program, and I'm thinking like that fits in with many of our like automotive, perhaps, or some of these other advanced manufacturing, and they could be getting that at our adult school.
Yep.
And it's not about cost, but like it seems like it would be more affordable to go that route than even going the Palomar route, maybe. And
So on your sample schedules, you'll see dual enrollment in there, but you'll
Yeah.
also see CTE placement, and CTE placement is
Would
where can
be
we
with the
place
adult
kids for the
school.
CTE
Okay.
programs or
And that-
internships.
that to me is just
You'll
such a
notice
cool
they're
opportunity.
in the last couple quarters or last semester of their senior year, so many of the students will be of the proper age or being ready to, or we were just talking about a summer bridging program. So there are a lot of
Good.
ways that we can dig into this and really truly redefine how we're doing and operating and highlighting some of the strengths in our district.
Yeah,
I'm glad that you're seeing.
I
this.
can,
good.
Christy, I can see where you're coming from. Let's utilize the resources that
We
we
already
currently
have,
have. Yeah.
right.
And I think that's a good idea.
But again,
So,
no. So once again, the state of California has overdone it. There's way too many things. Way, way, way. So how do we get around that? Like how do Dr. Casas, like, you need me to fly up there again? No, but in all seriousness, it's like,
no, what
Okay.
it is, Bob, is you got to put it on a board and spin it.
With the arrow.
let me just summarize some of this here.
Look at our
Okay.
region.
Can anybody read it?
Yeah, I
I
can,
can.
but it's like, it should actually have 5 wheels that all go in different directions.
And I'm sure that they're looking at the entire state, whereas we have to really be looking at
each-
our kids in North County.
But each
Right.
school should have the option of being like, let's pick 5. You know, I mean, to the degree, I think we have, you said, I think we're up to 30, like that right now. I even think that's too many for us. But it's like, for example, like, look, I have a hotel degree, hospitality degree. You don't need that in high school. Okay, end of story. Throw that out. Like, you can just go work in a restaurant and work your way up. And that's from a guy who got a degree in hotel restaurant management. You know, marketing, they better be learning AI, but that's in college because AI is going to take over. And I love it on here. Sales, like, okay, of course you can tell that I'm the sales guy. Dr. Costas is. It's like, okay, we don't need sales in high school. All right, it's stressful for kids. I'm thinking we have to figure out a way to pick like 5 or 6. This is, of course, the state of California is.
Well, and I
So
feel
this is where we gotta, I'm sorry, I think this is where we, I don't know if that's just a guidance or it's guidance. So then there you go. We can pick and choose what we feel by doing some research on which jobs are the most needed at the current state, right? Which jobs are that we currently need within the state, and then make a decision there. Because that's, the goal is to make sure that when a student graduates, that they have an opportunity to immediately get into a job. And the best way to do that is to make sure they're taking the right courses with good guidance. So with that note, I'm going to ask a couple questions. So I'm assuming that we're going to have to do some training for existing teachers. Is that correct? Okay. Also, we're looking at potentially hiring new students, right?
New teachers.
Teachers, sorry. Teachers, correct?
There's potential.
Okay, so we're looking at, I'm assuming that we will be, right? Is that correct? Do you think so? Dr. Cass, do you think we're going to be looking at?
Yeah, if we don't have qualified teachers with the appropriate training and background to run a said new program, if we do run a new program, yes.
And by the way, what I meant is if we do a good job on this, I will hire some students. Anyhow.
yeah.
And so that being said, have we done a cost analysis? Have we reached out to the community yet? Or are we discussed any of these specifics? Because some of them are mandated by the state, correct?
So we've worked with some of our economic, like the San Diego Strong Workforce and other areas who's hired WestEd, who have done a data analysis to identify what are the high priority sectors.
Okay.
And we've done it for San Diego, Imperial, North County areas. And we look at what are the jobs that are needed to be filled that are high growth and high wage.
Yeah.
So what is a livable wage that a student would graduate and go into an entry level and be able to live comfortably in that region? And so North County, we have about 5 areas where we're really honing in and needing. Some of them are education, healthcare, engineering. And so how do we support agriculture? And how do we support our local employers to have students that have some of those skills or attributes so that when they do graduate, they can go in? Parallel to that, our community college district has similar requirements where they need to offer some training programs in some of those areas. So we work together to partner with our community college partners so that our students can go into what we call middle skills trades, where they may need certificate to go into those trades or additional trainings, or they might not quite be at the right age but need training. And so we work directly with our community colleges that are in our region to make sure that we're meeting that need.
Okay.
And so that's what dictates the courses, it's labor market, and then what are the available.
Okay, I got another question. It relates to how are we going to sell this to the community, one, which I think is important, but I would think that there'd be some degree of benefit if we put it that way. To them that this is not a vocational school. Okay, that's some of the rhetoric I heard in the past and that, but that's not our intent to make these into vocational schools. Our intent is to have the two options, one or both options, right? Either you graduate and go to university, but still have certifications, or you go into the certification field, right? Trades. So I think there's going to be, and I don't know who's going to do that sales job, Dr. Cassis. But I think we
So we do need a sales.
yes, we do. Absolutely. And I think promotion is very important, how we communicate. We got to be transparent because we do not want to upset our partners in that. We got to make sure that we let them know this is going to benefit the school and will increase enrollment. I know that for a fact, that it will increase enrollment, and we could develop a stellar system. So my next question is from a finance situation. Have you guys assessed the budget that's going to be required to do this? And then I'll just,
I don't think we even, have at this point, they don't have a recommendation on what to do. They've got two different solutions, right? Is kind of what you're proposing, right?
Yes, it depends what the board wants us to do next.
Okay.
One option is we're looking to expand all of our CTE programs regardless, and we
Okay.
have to rewrite our curriculum if we want to receive state funding. There's a bunch of grants we receive, also basic funding for CTE programs, for hardware, for software, for capital outlay to renew buildings that have CTE programs, but only if we're following state guidelines. So sometimes they are overwhelming, but we have to follow them if we want to receive funding. But if we wanted to do a full school redesign, that's a whole different conversation and budget than just updating our curriculum, which we have to do anyway. The cost associated with updating our curriculum is paying teachers and working with our curriculum writers to update our curriculum, and
Okay.
any associated costs with that updated curriculum, which should be minimal, nothing outrageous, that we could probably just fund with whatever funds we have already. If we're looking at a school redesign, depending on what we want to do, if we want to add a building with new programs, with new infrastructure, with new hardware, that might be bond money we'd be talking about.
Okay.
So it just depends what we want to do.
Yes, my next question would be like, would you run those two scenarios for us to be able to make a decision, or would that be difficult to do?
Yeah, we could
Because
do
we
that.
need to look at,
We'd have
you
to
know,
collaborate with Ms. Phillips' office, but yes, we would do that.
okay.
And
Because I think it's good to, if I'm making a decision, I like to go, do I go with A or B, and what's the benefit of A and what's the benefit of B? That's why I asked that question. Have we done a preliminary analysis on what potentially would be the best that we can? I like to be data driven. You give me data and then it's easy to make the decision then, right? Sorry, go ahead.
Could we also see that with changing a school or maybe all the schools to the 4x4 block schedule? Because that would also, I'm sure that one would cost some money on that one because that's a major redesign.
Yes, we have that preliminary, and we can run those. We could give those to provide those for the board. That one's a little tricky because the cost associated with transitioning to the 4x4 is sort of like a one-time cost, providing some training for teachers on what the block schedule is, adjusting grading practices or timelines, really. But if we do it right, we should probably have less kids attend summer school, which then that should offset our cost, any initial costs we might have. You take a look at Del Lago, very few kids at Del Lago need summer school. Our summer schools are really comprised of students from SP, EHS, and OG. And so schools that run 4x4s, because they have more opportunities internally to remediate and to intervene and to accelerate, they have less costs associated with summer school. So
I have some follow-up questions to that 4x4 model. I know when we did the math workshop and we've been talking about how do we increase math scores across the district, one of the things I heard loud and clear from the math teachers was a 4x4 schedule would help significantly with increasing math. So this would align. The other component is, I lost my train of thought. It's okay. So it was around math. And I think it would be wise to look at all the schools, but, it was related to, because when you mentioned Del Lago, would no marks be something that then would go district-wide? Is there any relation to no marks and 4x4 schedule?
No, no, there's plenty of schools and districts that do 4x4 without no marks.
Okay,
It's just something unique to Del Lago.
okay.
Question about the California state standards changes, right? So obviously we have this new wonderful diagram that I can't read. But so I'm a little bit confused about what those the standards are. Obviously, the state has created this new cluster concept so that they want things categorized accordingly. Right? But what are the other changes that the state is requiring?
Sure. So they have updated the standards for arts and media and entertainment pathways. And so we'll be looking to make sure that the existing courses are aligned to that. We were a little excited and we started revising stuff early on. So we're a little ahead with arts and media. So it's double checking to make sure that we have all of the standards and that we're meeting those. And then secondarily, there's some interdisciplinary supports in there. So are we pulling in writing across the content? Is there math that needs to be supported in some of the other areas? And I don't mean teaching English or teaching math specifically as a standalone, but some of those skills are embedded in some of those courses. So we want to make sure that we're.
Awesome. And then the other question I had is I was a little bit confused on the difference between options 2 and 3. So option 2 is obviously redesign the existing pathways according to the new cluster framework, but then 3 is kind of the same thing.
Right.
From my superficial reading.
And 2 includes having guaranteed experiences, which is kind of the middle ground between the academy model and revising our current courses. And so a guaranteed experience would include, are there specific guest speakers that we're bringing in from industry to meet with students? Perhaps it's adult education coming in so the kids are aware of it. Sending field trips specifically towards those areas, having some projects that students are working on for some of those areas. It could be having some internships that are aligned with it. So we piloted having internships in our business course this school year to see how students are doing. And so it may be adding those internship experiences to other capstone courses as we're revising them. It may also include some work-based learning, some entrepreneurial classes that are embedded in it. So for example, at Del Lago, with our DECA club, they started their own thrift store so students can practice having their own business. And so we could embed some entrepreneurial skills.
Guaranteed experiences.
Guaranteed experiences. If you're signing up for this pathway, these are the experiences that we will guarantee.
So you get a field trip or someone coming in to talk to you, but that's not quite the same as hands-on CTE.
Right. So it goes by grade level. So perhaps in 9th grade, you're getting guest speakers. So you're going to pick your pathways. So you're like, I really liked hearing that speaker going on that field trip. And then in 10th grade, perhaps you're going to the trades programs because they or electrical, and you're starting to go in and I'm starting to see myself there. Perhaps I'm going to some of the trades programs at Palomar or adult education to see what's happening there. And then now I'm starting to take some of the CT classes. I'm building my skill base and I'm being exposed. I'm starting to network. I might be partnered with a mentor. I might go on to an internship that lasts a semester or a school year long. I might decide that I really have found that I love welding or I love HVAC, and perhaps they're courses that I can start taking at Palomar. So I might start a dual enrollment class, take some of those classes for certifications that we might not offer at the high school, but they offer at the college. Perhaps with extended CTE experiences where we're partnering with adult school. And I've now taken 2 of my CTE classes and I have some of the skill sets and I just need the industry internships for my licensing. My test, sign up. So, it kind of builds according to the pathway.
So my understanding, we're starting to work towards OSHA certification too, right? Occupational health and safety, which is an important aspect of working in the construction fields. Is there any other certifications that you foresee that we would have to ensure that the students would have to take as a part of their apprenticeship program? Or are you aware of that? Or is there plans for that in the future?
So for our education curriculum, the students will need to be CPR take their CPR. And that's something that we're working on, and that will be in phase 2 or the capstone course. Currently, we are NC3 for our transportation sector. And so that's aligned with our current automotive program with Palomar. All of our programs that have hand tools use SP2, which is a safety, which is very similar to OSHA, but it's directly aligned with that industry sector. So we have one for construction, we have one for welding, we have one for automotive. And the students at a minimum take the safety test for that, and they have a certificate that lasts for a year to 3 years, depending on which certificate they earn. But additionally, students can accelerate in that program, and they can take additional certifications if they like. We do have students that have taken up to 14 certifications through the NC3 or SB2. So we have a minimum standard of expectation for some of the certifications, but we also have opportunities to students accelerate through some of the certifications. Our new pre-apprentice program, we have career connections, and there's 3 levels that students can work through. And then that carries over into they're registered as a pre-apprentice through the Department of Apprenticeship Standards, and those certificates stay within them. So when they transfer later, their certificate.
I know right now that commissioning of facilities requires a lot of experience, especially on the HVAC side for lease experience, energy efficient buildings, that type of thing. So I would think that the HVAC one would be very beneficial. That I know, because I had my HVAC replaced recently, and it cost me a lot of money.
Yeah. And so HVAC is one of those programs that you do have to be 18 just because of the electrical that's involved.
Yeah.
However, there are many skills that students can earn in our CTE programs leading to it. They can learn welding, so they know how to spot weld, TIG and TIG. They can take the construction class. They understand how the framing works, or basic electrical, or some masonry that they might need if they're going to do residential to work around things. So there's a lot of skills that our students can learn leading into being that 18-year-old experience. And if we do decide to do a guaranteed experience that includes dual enrollment, then our students can, when they turn 18 while they're in high school, concurrently enroll at Palomar and start their HVAC.
Where did we get the 18? Is that a federal law or a state law?
That is a rule because the electrical systems that they use in HVAC are dangerous. And so the college allows
Yeah, I
18
got
and up.
smacked by a capacitor a few times.
But it's not all programs. So when we're looking at programs, we just need to make sure that we're addressing, for example, medical assisting, they can do front office.
Mhm.
We just want to make sure that if they're going to go on to phlebotomy, that we do it when they're 18, so they get their jabs in when they turn.
Okay.
So there's workarounds to it that we can get kids to that place. And then maybe it's a summer bridge program with our adult education to get.
What do you foresee the next steps? What's the next step that we need to, which is probably the most important? Everybody's looking and smiling. Okay, Dr. Cassis, it looks like you're on. What is the next step?
I mean, it sounds like we have direction that the board is requesting a cost to transition to 4x4 by site. And also, what does that look like district-wide? The cost of updating our curriculum district-wide. And then 3, what is the cost of a single school redesign?
Mhm.
That's an important next step. And then from there, guidance from the board of which of the 3 options or a combination of the options do we want to explore.
I know I'm very interested in seeing more details on option 1 and seeing what we could do there. Because I'm also looking and saying, you know, if we do a full CTE type school, I want to focus more on CTE and back off on AP and stuff. The AP classes get more CTE and hands-on stuff in there. They need the extra academics for like that. They could take those over at Palomar College as part of the program. So I'd really like to see more of the hands-on. But what I'm also seeing is, you know, automation killed off those entry-level jobs for kids. AI is killing off the jobs that these kids who are now starting college today, half of them will have their jobs gone by the time they graduate college. AI is going to devastate that, and college graduation is not going to be as much anymore because you're not going to have a job there unless you're doing something with your hands.
I absolutely agree. That was one of my rants I did the last.
Yeah. My other question, though, is if we are looking at option 1, why EHS? versus another school.
Wasn't,
picks it.
okay.
It's just an example.
That's just an example.
There's Escondido in the name.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
That-
just
I think
wondering
it
if
would
there
be
was,
good to look at
I'm
the
just
different
wondering if there was a
schools.
specific reason for
Be-
Look at
EHS.
the
They
different
seem to be
schools.
fully stocked with, I'm not saying they're the ones because but they seem to have a lot of CTE programs already
Yeah,
there.
we mentioned it just to provide an example. It could be any of our comprehensive sites. But also we also built a 4x4 with all the CTE programs by site. So if we were to
Okay, there you go.
provide a
There you
recommendation
go.
for another site, we're prepared to explore that as well.
It's
Yeah.
all, for every site, it's.
I definitely want to thank whoever put
Mhm.
these together because this.
This
is
one of our
freaking-
CTE programs that printed this?
Yes,
Oh,
it
yes,
was.
it was. Oh,
Way to go, guys.
yeah.
Yeah, see, there you go.
Ton of work.
Yeah, it was, looks
'cause you
really,
provided
really
both-
good.
I mean, all the different sectors, both a 4x4 and a regular 6 class. And then you put in classes. And it's interesting, for example, looking under building and moving, construction and transportation. And what's really good is that they're still taking, as you guys have totally told us already, they're still taking math and English and Spanish and all the classes. And then in 10th grade, you start to filter in some of the CTE related. It looks exactly like what we had in high school back in the 70s.
Yep.
It's like,
Wasn't that the time California had the best educational system in the world?
yes. And even though, even though I came out of it,
I
but
think creating
but-
something like this per school would be helpful with the different pathways for each school. So a parent, for instance, that needs to help their kid pick their classes for freshman year
Yeah.
or each semester, you kind of have a template to work off of whether, and you, even if, I know this is a lot of work, but let's say you have a kid that's college bound, like college athlete bound, that's one route. If you're looking at, a culinary job, like this might be your, and then even getting these in the hands of 8th grade students and their parents, because I'm on the board, and when my kid enrolled as a freshman, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I had no, you just don't know. You have no idea. So this would be incredibly helpful for each school with different options for what we offer.
you
It's
know,
like a good menu, isn't it?
Yeah,
At a fine
Spaghetti
restaurant.
Factory,
Yeah.
or the,
No.
Cheesecake Factory.
it's
or whatever.
interesting though. that
I wa-
this is-
Can I interject for a second? Bob, you brought up a brilliant point on the fact that many of the educational systems today in university, kids are not going to have a job when they leave, when they graduate because of AI. So I hope we take the perspective that some of these CTE programs are, if they're going to fall into that slot, why would we offer it? Right? I mean, why would we offer something where there's not going to be a future for
I
the
think
kid?
Trustee Journey made that point.
Okay, sorry.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, okay.
We all think the same.
Yeah, there you go. You guys are doing a Vulcan mind meld, are you? Okay. But anyhow, so we have to look at it from that perspective. We do not want to waste any resources or funds on programs that don't have a future, right? We don't want to mislead kids down the wrong path if they do decide to go for a career in one of the trades or other professions, the healthcare and that. So we got to make sure whatever we do, we're not going to be wasting valuable resources and funding on something that may not be around in 5 years.
Which, let me just real quick, this related. So Dr. Casas, do we have to try to offer all of these? Like, I don't understand what the state is actually making.
I think those are suggested curricular revisions, which they're not really suggested. Like if you're going to ask the state of California for funds, capital outlay for software, for hardware to provide these CTE programs, then your curricular revisions and your course descriptions and your scope and sequence should all reflect that.
So, but within a certain section, not like. all
Correct.
30.
Correct. And so
That was my question.
if you have a small school, you wouldn't be able to offer all of that. Like Valley only has one.
It's the organization, the clusters, the categorization.
Correct.
Going back to what Christy was mentioning earlier, that's one of my asks that I've had, I think, in a previous meeting about CTE. I'd love to see that menu option in terms of when I show up for school, I've got track A and track B. right? So track A, let's say, is the college route, track B is the trade route, and it has that map to kind of walk you through what that experience looks like.
A nice process flow would be great, right?
Another question I had is, I feel like, at least from my from what I'm getting at, I feel like we're kind of mixing two different concepts into one, right? Which is the 4x4 schedule and expanded CTE. Because, we've kind of already been talking about 4x4, and from what I can tell, in order to do the expanded CTE programs as well as a academy-like experience, you kind of need the 4x4, right? But it's still two different questions, right? It's still 4x4 is one, and then CTE, expanded CTE is the other, right?
Yes and no. I think they're related. If we decide to expand our CTE offerings through 9 through 12, but we don't shift the way we offer classes via schedule, then we are putting kids and parents at a crossroads of, well, now I'm not going to be an AVID. Now I may not want to be in band. Well, now I may not do a 4th year of math. So this, with the 4x4, students and parents can still continue to have both the options of being college and career ready.
I think choice is going to be critical with all of this too, and having, choice in all of those. So whether it be we still have one school that's more traditional pathway that allows for all those other components, and then having really specialized. And I think framing it as an academy is that's really a really great way to do it. Because that academy model, which we have with Del Lago Academy, really elicits a sense of dollar and all of the things that was kind of Del Lago was built around. So that's great. One thing I'm just wondering if we're missing, and I'm thinking to pathways that might not require a lot of physical infrastructure. But cybersecurity seems like a huge industry that, while AI might be able to help with that, might be AI working against itself. But I know there are a lot of entry-level computer type certifications that are out there, whether it be through AWS, there's like an Amazon one, the CompTIA, there's different ones that could be really beneficial for kids to get into that might not require a full building redesign or those kinds of things. So looking at what those might be.
I wish we could roll out an AI course in September, but there's no chance of anything like that. But I mean, I think it'd be great if we could start teaching kids how to use AI now, rather than letting them figure it out, and we're always fighting them. You know what? That's something that's a great tool that's going to be there for a long time. Use it and use it wisely. And you need to know how to use it. And I mean, Ryan knows quite a bit more about ChatGPT than a lot of us.
There are other
I've been playing
programs
with it lately. And it's like, it just blows me away and what AI can do.
Well, I assume that we're already doing that in some classes. I mean, anybody who's teaching computer programming and not using AI is a mistake, right? So I'd assume that the kids are already doing that anyway, whether allow it or not.
Just remember though, coders are now going to be replaced by AI. That's coming, and a lot of the code that's being written now is being written by AI.
Well, sure, that's the best.
So
coders are the ones who use AI.
Really, but
it's a tool.
It's a tool, exactly.
Wikipedia was when I was in high school.
However, AI is not going to replace a nurse. It's not going to. I mean, they'll use it, but in the end, I think healthcare. We know, especially with a hospital right here. Healthcare.
So I'm doing a podcast specifically on AI in the biotech and medical device field, because we're implementing novel technology right now for the robotics and fabrication of different medical devices utilizing AI. But you still need human interaction. It's required, because if you get a mistake, you may find like a month later that there's an error because the AI was improperly programmed.
That brings me to critical thinking.
Okay.
We cannot lose that. The kids have to learn to think, and because there are so many biases written into AI, even though it's self-learning, that the kids, like, you
Yeah.
need to be able to learn how to spot it. And if we're just like, go down these fields, but they're not learning the critical thinking and, what do we have here? US history or math or English or statistics or economics, government, they still need to be able to spot the bias. It's really important.
There's a thing called Flynn's Law.
Flynn's Law?
Yeah, and it's that every generation, the IQ increases. But unfortunately, this generation, because of oversaturation with electronic devices, they're either decreasing or they're not moving at all. They're reigning. So at an early age, and that includes, and I don't want to drift in there too much, but it's really critical in school systems, they're saying, that we decrease, especially in the lower grades, and that we remove a lot of the electronic devices. They have better, the human interaction and reading is much more powerful, comprehension wise, their learning abilities and that. So we need to focus, if we want the next generation or the next group of kids coming in to iSchool to be prepared for iSchool. We have no control of what goes on in the elementary school, but that should be something that we look into. And I just kind of diverted there, but I'm just saying why it is important, because it's the future, right? Technology is the future. That's how we're going to advance our
Technology makes people stupider.
yeah, easier, more.
No, sometimes it really does, because you don't have to think. You don't have to do. I get in my car now and I just push a button and it takes me over here. I don't have to think about driving anymore.
I get in my car and
the
my
roads are
Allows you
safer
to think
for
about
that.
other things instead.
exactly.
But technology it can impact you negatively. It definitely is.
Just, if I may, just want to synthesize, I think, our next steps again and
Sure.
make sure
So
we're
we
on the right
there.
track here. So again, just provide estimate cost of the 4x4, single site district-wide. 2, cost of updating the curriculum district-wide. 3, what would be the cost of a single school redesign?
Yeah.
Right? Academy.
Yeah.
From,
With academies.
yes.
I want to clarify it because
Because we have some there already, yeah.
it's a single school divided into 3, 4, 5 academies that align to these clusters.
Yeah, option 1.
Every
Yep.
student is assigned to an academy.
Option 1.
Like Harry Potter.
And then once we provide that, we'll wait for guidance from the board as to what to continue to explore.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, your list was focused heavily on cost. I think it's also about, the strategy, the roadmap, the plan.
Of course.
All the logics that go along with that.
Yep. Okay.
Very good.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. You guys did a fantastic job as always.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Labor of love.
Thank you both.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. So if we kept you here a little longer, but I think this is very important.
They're on a 12 by 12 schedule.
Okay.
You mentioned this document.
Yes.
It's Mia and her team who
Thank you.
created.
Oh, thank you. It's
Well, you guys did a
really
good job.
helpful. Really
Vivian
helpful.
and Carissa.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to item 6 on our agenda, which is our budget discussion. So I am going to hand this over to Ms. Phillips for our budget discussion. Thank you for her team.
We have somebody one.
You do. It's me and a guest.
Oh, okay, cool.
My team is me and a guest.
Okay. got it.
So we have our budget workshop tonight. So good evening. I know it's I'm second tonight, so it's a little odd, but and our workshop is a little different tonight than it has been historically. There we go. So we are going to cover some different topics than we have traditionally. We're going to start with some Proposition 98 funding. So essentially how the state funds K-14 education. Obviously, we'll focus on K-12, but Proposition 98 does include the community colleges too. Then we'll go into AB 1200 and the multi-year projections. And this is, we actually have a guest. We have Brent Watson. He is the executive director from the San Diego County Office of Education. He is going to take section 2 and dive into that for me. And then number 3, the unrestricted fund balance review. So brought these handy dandy folders back for a second night for you guys. And so we'll dive into those prior 6 years and we'll cover that. And then we'll wrap up the night with a few highlights from the governor's budget for 26-27. Here we go. So Proposition 98, essentially, what is it? And this is just basically, it serves as the floor or the guarantee for education funding in California. It was established in 1988 as a constitutional amendment. Who benefits? As I mentioned, it's K-12, but also community colleges, county offices of education back here. They benefit preschool, state agencies. So as I mentioned, it's the floor. It sets the basic level of funding. It doesn't fund essentially, it doesn't set individual programs, but you know, we end up talking about different programs that get funded out of Prop 98, but it funds the whole pot essentially. Where does the money come from? The state general fund, local property taxes, but essentially the majority of the fund comes from the general fund, state's general fund.
From the taxpayers that goes into the general fund. Let's just make sure we're clear on where the general fund comes from.
So basically, the combination of that is how we get to the minimum that has to meet or exceed the minimum guarantee. The state can fund above that. They just can't go below it. And we'll talk about suspending it a little bit later. How they calculate the minimum guarantee. This is what's known as the tests, free tests. So they basically calculate all 3 tests every year. And the state uses the one that produces the highest level of funding for education. And that's the one that gets picked that year. And each test is slightly different based on economic and enrollment factors.
Can you say economical enrollment?
Yes. So basically, test 1 is based on the share of the general fund revenue. Basically, 40% of the general fund revenue goes to K-12 or community colleges. That's test 1. Test 2 is based on the prior year, adjusted for attendance and personal income. So they run that. And if that's bigger than 40% of the general fund revenue, test 2. Then we go to test 3. Test 3 is based on the prior year funding, adjusted for attendance, and the general fund state revenue. So they run all 3 calculations, and whichever one is the biggest pot for education, that is the test or formula that we get funded on for that year.
What was the rationale for developing this type of system?
They needed a mechanism for this. I believe it was, test 3.
So this is based on 1988.
Yes, 1988, and I feel like test 3 came in later.
Okay.
I think it was just test 1 and test 2, I think, for a little bit. I think test 3 came in even later.
As method.
And most recently, it's been test 1.
So are they planning on modernizing this anytime soon? Because antiquated and outdated.
I don't think there's any rationale
desire
to
for that.
update this.
Oh, okay.
Has there been props to try and repeal 98? No. There's been to add more money to.
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody's made any initiative to try and change it or add money to it. I mean, we want to add money to it, but I don't think anybody's trying to.
Other props to try to.
The idea behind it was to guarantee a minimal
Yes.
level
Floor.
of funding for education. And in doing so, some people criticize it by saying it also now created the ceiling. The state's not obligated to do any more than the minimum.
Mhm.
No, they could.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. And that's what I got out of it. And that's the highest minimum.
Right.
Okay.
The highest minimum. That's funny.
Well, that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. They're looking to make
That wasn't directed at you. That was.
But and that's what they're funding to. They could go higher, but No, we can go up to here.
Yep. So essentially, the annual budget timeline for the state flows this way. There's the June budget enactment. They fund Prop 98 based on estimates. None of that data is final. So they use projections. The year unfolds. Revenues could be higher or lower. And then there's the final certification that happens after the facts. Obviously, it's based on tax receipts. So, I mean, not everybody files their taxes right on time. And so that's when the state certifies the correct Prop 98 minimum guarantee. And that's when we kind of get this settle up process.
So what is the minimum of 40% out of what, their entire budget?
The general fund, yes, the entire
It's general
state general fund.
We're running at a deficit, so what does that mean?
I mean, there's still the general fund. So even if they're running at a deficit, there's still revenue.
Okay, so it's based on revenue of money that taxes.
So the thing that I've been thinking about this a lot, and you guys correct me if I'm. Basically, it's like, so their overall budget is this, but education is pretty much protected. If it's over, it may. But education, that's why I don't think. They're gonna have to take it. They take it out of education, they know they're all out.
So it's the revenue from the brought in from taxes. Other, okay.
So, so then there could be some settle up if the guarantee has swung either way. If it happened to, if the final guarantee is, if they owe us money, then obviously that creates what they call a maintenance factor. And that's all written into law, and there's a formula of how they have to pay us back when that works. If it's more, as we said, they don't technically owe us, but historically they have let us keep it, which is kind of why, and we'll circle back to this a little later, why the governor this year and last year has kind of done this maneuver where he's underestimated Prop 98
Oh, on purpose.
on purpose because he doesn't want to owe us more. He doesn't want it to come in higher.
Didn't he
because-
want to cut costs back in 2024, I believe?
Yeah,
And
he estimated it lower because historically they haven't taken it back if it's come in higher.
yeah, and I believe the
So they can.
Yeah.
Can.
Is that what that was just happening when he was threatening it again, or was he
Yeah,
actually threatening
Threatening it again this year, and he did it last
he
year.
did it before in the
where that he would go
He
low?
lowballed.
yeah,
He lowballed.
yeah, and the
He's
No,
asking
it's
him not to,
ETA put a video out about him and doing that, and then he
and he
backed,
changed his mind. Okay.
changed his mind. Yeah.
Yeah. So just a little more on this. So we just talked about this. So if it's higher, they must provide the funding because obviously the formula works out and it's higher, they have to do it. If it's lower, they don't have to take it away, but they've usually let us
Mhm.
keep it. But so, what this really means in real life, it comes later. So when this happens in real life, it's LCFF adjustments. This could be one-time funding. That could take away deferrals, block grant increases. This is what happens when when we get more money after the fact. If it's, lower than expected, this is when they do, deferrals, they suspend Prop 98, reductions like the Great Recession and things like that happen. So this is, when things happen that we don't know about, they come after the fact. These are kind of those impacts because these calculations are happening after the fact and they impact multiple years of the state as well. Key takeaways for Prop 98, constitutionally protected, a minimum, that's the floor, but at least it's constitutionally protected.
It's constitutionally protected, as we found out.
The 3-test formula, based on state revenues, per capita income, student attendance, obviously whichever is highest. There's that settle up process based on calculations. And then that maintenance factor when funding falls short, there is a constitutional debt. Again, which is why we prefer that maintenance factor and that suspension of Prop 98, because then there's that constitutional formula that they have to follow versus a maneuver that's not constitutional now that they have to owe us. Now I get to bring up Brent. Talk through.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Hey,
Welcome to our humble.
your humble room. I've enjoyed listening to you talk and go around, know you a little bit. So why am I here? We were asked to come in and talk to you a little bit about AB 1200 and how it relates to your multi-year projections. So just a little bit of background. In the early 90s, we had school districts that were starting to go bankrupt. We had a lot of financial issues. We had one school district that actually did go bankrupt. We had another that had to take out state loans to operate. And then we've had another one that actually had to work through a process to get them assistance so they could stay fiscally solvent.
So I'm taking a governance course right
Okay.
now, and they talked about multi. And what I found is what they did with these particular on the governance board,
Mhm.
they got rid of the superintendent, they brought in a trustee,
So it
and the
works.
board was a lame duck.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's
I'll
happening
explain that.
again? Is it happening again?
It's
across
happening
the
right
state?
now. There's 13, there's been,
13.
I'll get
Okay,
to it
okay.
right now.
Okay, good. Thank
It's,
you.
it's part of
Thank
the
you.
process. I'm gonna talk
Okay,
about
sorry.
this exact same thing.
I don't need to-
I asked a dumb question. After.
Sure.
Who are you and what?
I'm sorry. I'm Brent Watson. I'm the executive director. I'm in charge of district financial services for the county office.
Got it. Thank you so much.
So yes,
Okay, cool.
we were invited up to, my boss was coming up. He's sick. So he gave me a call this morning
Got
and
it.
said, hey, you're speaking tonight. So
This is very important.
That
So-
Mike that did that to
Yeah.
you?
Yeah,
Oh,
Mike is sick. He's,
Nice try.
he couldn't handle it. So
Uh-huh.
he called me. So I will tell you, I looked at these today.
Okay, okay.
So I'm talking my way through it. I didn't prepare them, but I'm talking through them. So, but we'll get to your, and I'll explain it to you and how that
Good,
actually works.
because I mean, I learned so much from that.
Oh, yeah.
course. It's on
So
finance.
the reason, and that's the reason why we have AB 1200. So AB 1200 was designed as an early warning system. There was really no way to take a look at, or people weren't looking at school districts this way. They weren't looking at the finances. They weren't really saying, what do we have and who's looking at it? So what happened as I go through everything?
And I
these-
just add one more thing,
Yeah, go ahead.
and I'm gonna praise this governance course because it's online and I
Yeah.
interface with a lot of board members, superintendents, and financial individuals, and you wouldn't be amazed how many schools are having financial issues right now.
Oh, I know.
Quite a
Yeah.
few.
That's my job.
Quite a
The AB
few.
1200 is the reason I'm here.
Yeah,
Every single
and-
county office has one executive director or something like that in the county office that works over the AB 1200 oversight process for the districts, and I'm that person.
So I think the online session's a lot better because you interface with the.
It's
actual
better than
people.
me?
I don't know. We'll see. But anyhow.
Yeah,
just
you know,
wanted
you
to
probably have a
say
lot.
that,
I'm hoping that
also
what I'm saying
Oakland is
fine.
having a massive layoff,
Mhm.
massive.
Yeah.
And that's
I
it.
actually have a friend who's a trustee assigned by the state of California that was a trustee up in Oakland. And
Looks like he may
there's
be
another
going back
one
to.
in near that area too.
Well,
So,
I'll let you finish.
Okay.
Sorry. I just
and
wanted
feel
to
free,
say
I know,
that. Yeah.
I'm fine.
No, don't tell him
If
that.
you have any questions at any time, go ahead. That's what I'm here for.
Okay.
So basically what it did is it created an early warning system, standardized reporting process, meaning every single school district's going to report things the same way. You're going to use the same budget format. You're going to have the same budget reporting timelines. You've got budget, interim reports, end of year fiscal reports, closing, et cetera. So it created a process for everything to be standardized, even the account code structure that we use. I wasn't in schools in 1992, but my wife might think I was, but everything was sort of haphazard. Everybody just built their own budgets their own way. They put things together the way they wanted to. There was really no standardized process. So, and what it did too is it created a partnership with the county office. it created us as sort of, I think it's up here, the gatekeepers. We're the ones that are working closely with your finance team. We provide training, we provide any technical assistance. We're the ones that review all your reports. We're the ones that give you the guidance when the budget comes out. We're the ones that walk you through all these things. We're the ones that show up to your presentations and have these conversations with you. So it created a real partnership between county offices and districts that didn't exist on the finance side. Not saying on the education side it didn't exist, but it didn't exist on the finance side. So then they also created FCMAT, which FCMAT is the Fiscal Crisis Management Assistance Team. They're the team, they're operated out of Kern County Office of Education. And when something goes awry, like you're saying, you've got a district that's negative, is taken over by the state. FCMAT's the team that's working. They work with us at the county office. They're basically analyzing when a district goes south, so to speak, there's steps, and it's usually not something that happens right away. It takes a while. And as that process goes through, county office has steps that we follow to try and make sure that doesn't happen. FCMAT comes in then and looks at all the steps that we take and helps us either right the ship or say, okay, what did you do that maybe we need to clean up on our own? So FCMAT's there. They're there for trainings. They'll come in and they'll do analysis of your programs. You can have them do all kinds of things. They really are there for the finance side. Okay. Will they fix this?
Working.
But okay. All right. So the core purpose is just what we talked about, standardized reporting, making sure everybody's doing the same thing. But it also created certifications. And these certifications are done at first and second interim. And the certifications are a positive certification, meaning that you are positive, you have a positive ending fund balance and cash in the current and 2 subsequent fiscal years. A qualified certification means that you'll be positive in the current year. You may or may not be positive in the 2 subsequent fiscal years. It's not just the third year. A lot of people think it's just that third year, but it really is for both. And negative means that you will not be able to meet your fiscal obligations in the current or subsequent fiscal years, meaning you're either out of cash or your fund balance is negative. So we currently, in San Diego County, we have 1 qualified school district and we have 1 negative school district. And these aren't certifications that the county office does. These are certifications that the districts certify themselves. So when you guys are reviewing everything, you take the recommendation from your business department, you walk through the process and you say, this is what we should certify. Our job is to review your reports and either concur with your certification or say that we disagree. County office can change your certification if we feel that we need to. That is a very rare process. Our job is not to come in and really be that mean oversight. Our job is to come in and say, how can we quietly work with you behind the scenes? When you're in one of these situations, we provide additional help. We have funding that can come in and we can provide a fiscal advisor, which is what we have in one of our school districts right now. That means that person is currently sitting there, the eyes and ears of the county office, works with us, sits in on all the board meetings, sits in on all the cabinet meetings, reports back, gives guidance to the superintendent, et cetera. Now, as you go down the path of, I don't want to get too far down the negative, you guys are nowhere near these issues, but if you're asking the question, when you're certified negative and if you lose your school district, the board is basically loses all power. Superintendent is fired, CBO is usually let go right along with it. Board loses all say. A state administrator is placed into the school district. That person used to work with the state of California, assigned by the state of California. Now the way things have changed, they work through the county office. So basically the county office will be running your school district. That state administrator has stay and rescind authority for everything. So you might be having conversations and agreeing on things, but if it's not something that the state administrator thinks will keep you fiscally healthy, then that person has the authority to override everything. So, and I'm only saying that, I wouldn't go into that level of detail right now, but with this situation, but you asked the question. So I'm assuming I'm in line with what you've been hearing.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Okay.
Usually a lot of.
It is up north. There was just another one, Mike told me today. And since AB 1200 was initiated or came into life, there's only been 10 school districts that have actually gone to state receivership. And that's state receivership when you're taken over by the state.
And so
Yeah, that's since 92.
can you give some examples of what led to that? Like, what were the things that were happening that got those districts?
Raises they couldn't afford.
Raises they couldn't afford.
Raises they couldn't afford, poor budget planning.
Okay.
So when we talk about the multi-year projections, that's why these are so important. There was no look ahead. They were looking currently at just what they were doing at that current period in time. So they had structural deficits. Their revenues weren't keeping up with what their expenditures were. They were budgeting their enrollment, improperly. Their estimates were wrong. They're saying they had more kids than actually were in the system. And so revenues were projected to be higher. And then when they closed the books, it was flipped upside down. So expenditures were through the roof. The revenues never showed up. And in some
Was it a mix
cases,
of board decisions and staff?
it's a combination.
decisions?
Oh, yes, it's a
Okay.
combination because the decisions that you guys make you get guidance from your CBO and they're looking at things, but it also works its way through you. So as you're talking today about CTE, your questions were very interesting as I was listening because you started going to the budget side, right? And that's right where I think, it's great to hear the conversation, but my first question when you started going, what's the budget? What am I thinking here? Are we going to hire new teachers? Do we have current teachers that can do these things? So when you look at your multi-year projections, you're not thinking about that right now. None of that's built into what Amanda's put together.
Right.
So now all of a sudden, as you put this together and you're like, we're going to go forward, and these are decisions that you guys make, and those decisions push those expenses into the multi-year projection.
Mhm.
So they're not right. Yeah, I did too, the minute you said that, because as you said, we might have some teachers that do, but we might have some teachers that don't. So the decision to go into a process without looking at really where the finances are is what gets us in your business. It's what gets the county office heavily involved. We try to work behind the scenes, which is what we're doing right now. I won't tell you that, well, the district, we're just working quietly
Okay.
with them. And we don't want to be seen. We don't want to be
Okay.
heard. Some cases we are because the district disagrees with the guidance that we're giving and it's very vocal, but we'd rather be assisting behind the scenes.
Can you go back to the last slide here? When you disagree with us,
Mhm.
right? Or when you disagree with Amanda, which is never a good idea. You never,
I would never
Disagree with
disagree with
Amanda.
Amanda.
right? So,
Oh, you meaning the certification?
yeah, so when we talk about a multi-year plan, right? So obviously, let's say, current year positive, year one positive, year two negative,
Mhm.
right? When that happens, what happens between you two here?
We have conversations and we sit there and we say, okay, where do you think you're at? And this is when we're really looking at the MYPs because there's so many things that you don't build into that.
Right.
We make a lot of we give guidance in the budget. And right now there's one-time funds. Our guidance is don't budget them right now. And if you
Okay.
do budget them, then you need to have a plan because what the first thing we do is we look at your MYPs, we look at next year, we pull those dollars out because we don't know if those are going to come. Then we look and see how that all plays out. So we really have to have these conversations. What do you have built in? Is your ADA, are you projecting decreasing enrollment? Because most districts are decreasing. Well, we've seen a couple districts project increases. So boom, alarms go off in our head. We look at the past. You haven't been increasing. Why all of a sudden do you think you're increasing right now? So these are conversations that we have. It is extremely rare. We've done it. I've been here 15 years. Once have we changed a district certification. And because we disagreed, they went from negative to qualified and we said, no, you're still in negative status. It takes a lot because we have to make sure the state of California agrees with our assessment. We don't do that lightly because there's an appeal process. So if you say, no, we think we're here and we want to go to the state, if they don't back us up, we don't make a decision that we don't know what the answer is.
Yeah.
We would never change a certification if we already don't have the state in our court. But it's conversations that we have, and we have it a lot. I personally think the district sitting in that third year out, that's the exact definition of what qualified means. May or may not in the current 2 subsequent fiscal years. We have districts that do that? No. We have districts that third year out. Oh, we're going to be good because that third year is so hard. Whatever you think your MYP is going to be, it's wrong. Guaranteed.
We figured that out.
And that's not a bad thing.
Right.
And that's just budgeting. It's wrong because it's not because she doesn't have the right information and
Right.
because she's putting the wrong things in. It's because things change. You've got a CTE program that will already throw that thing into array, possibly. You've got one-time funds that may be here next year, may not. You know, you give raises based on all these things that aren't built into the budget. Exactly, it does. Right. And what happened? We had districts go through, when COVID hit, we had districts that were sitting there with structural deficits, really upside down, expenses way higher than what their current revenues, but all these one-time funds came in and saved them. So what we did is we pulled out all those one-time funds in our analysis and a lot of things just to see if they had a deficit or not, structural. And that's what we asked districts to do. They see what you really have, because one time, eventually these are going to go away. And we're seeing it right now. They're starting to go away. Districts are starting to, we're seeing deficits.
So what's the issue in terms of from a solvency certification? Let's say we stamp ourselves as qualified because the third year out is, we say negative because we don't believe the MYP. Because historically it hasn't been very accurate for us. Right?
And that's the same for everybody.
Yeah. So what's the problem? Let's say
There's no problem with being qualified.
There's no problem with being qualified.
None whatsoever. We tell districts that all the time. If you want to go qualified, that means you're taking a good hard look at your budget. You're saying our third year out is questionable. It's not a reflection on the CBO. It's not a reflection on the district in itself. It just means that you're saying, hey, we've got issues. Sometimes that helps when it comes to making decisions on other things. We want to add teachers, or we need to make these kind of cuts. We tell districts all the time, being qualified is not a bad thing. I will constantly say that. It means if you need some additional assistance, the additional work it means for Amanda means you got to do what we call a third interim report, and that's in May. And it's just another look in time of what your budget is. You have a first interim, second interim, and it's called end of year projection report. We call it third interim, but it's just another look. And it's not a bad thing. And we have districts all the time that just will not go qualified because they think it's a negative connotation.
I look at evaluate. Your projection. Information. But on the average. What were you? Heard them. Or is there a normal?
There's no normal medium. It depends. It depends on the level of risk you're willing to take. Some districts are extremely conservative. They don't build a lot into their MYP. They don't build any teacher raises. They don't. A lot of times you don't, because then you're negotiating. You've already built it in the budget. Then you've basically given it away.
From my perspective.
If you're conservative, yes. I would agree with you. Because what happens, do you want to be conservative? Your level of risk is, do I want my MYPs to fall out where I look better every year than what I'm projecting? Or do you want it to go the other way? You want it to say, hey, I look really good, and then, oh, I'm not as good as I think. And then you're eating up your reserves. And we have that, we see the gamut all over. It's everywhere. It's all over.
Say the MYPs are great, and except when you're in negotiations, and then the MYPs
In
become a weapon
negotiations, they're
against you.
different.
Let's
That's
say
exactly
not
what they do.
trauma informed, but it becomes something
Yes.
used against you.
Yeah,
So you
it
see
can.
that probably.
all the time.
Okay.
We don't get involved in negotiations at all. We stay away from them. But yes, when you're talking about, oh, my MYPs, you always say it looks bad and then it comes out
Right.
great.
okay.
And then you're fighting that as part of the
'Cause
problem.
that's what we've been dealing
But
with.
one-time
yeah.
dollars pop up and one-time dollars aren't to be used to cover ongoing expenses. They're a one-time prop for that year. So you can use them, they show up next year and you can close a budget gap for 1 year, but some districts give raises based on one-time dollars because they think it's always gonna. So you want to be, our opinion is be as conservative as possible. That's our guidance. And so when you follow that, we can see we can see as they fall out, okay, yeah, they look like this. I can tell you right now, out of the 42 school districts, we look at the MYPs, we're like, okay, they look negative. All right, we know where they're going to close. We know they're going to close better here. They're conservative in their numbers. They're projecting ADA either to decline or stay the same. I don't really have that big of an issue with them. But also going qualified is not bad. It just means you're really taking that good look.
So why not, I think when we do our MYP, we use 100% assumption from a salary wages standpoint.
I think.
Staffing, okay.
Yeah, why not, take a multiplier to that? Take the projected forecast from a salary standpoint and multiply that by 0.95. Right? Because in reality, there's turnover.
That's decisions that you guys make.
Okay.
So, yeah, if you've looked at the numbers like that, again, conversations that you guys and guidance that you give, and you're sitting there saying, but when you're looking at staffing as well, you don't know who's going to be here for the year. You don't know who's going to be gone. You don't know the changes. You don't know if you need more subs for the year. You should know who's stepping, right?
Right.
You know, step and column. You know those expenses are constant. So you should know who's doing this. What if this person leaves? But if you get somebody, that's higher here, lower over here, benefits go higher, all of a sudden benefits hit. So all these expenses that you think you have are constantly changing, right? And the revenues are constantly changing. So this thing's difficult. Yeah. No, it's not. And we know, and that's what we look for. We know districts that will be that way. We know districts that will be the opposite. They'll budget that way. We do know, okay, I have a comfort level. They're running a deficit here. Okay, they're probably going to close better. That's what we think, but things change. But you also don't want to negotiate on that as well, right? You don't want to be walking in and saying, yeah, we know we're going to be better and we're going to do this. I hope I'm helping you in some cases. They're not hurting you in some cases, but.
So, but in summary, from a solvency standpoint, you from when we submit or when Amanda submits the budget to you, right, and says, okay, let's say MYP is negative, we stamp it from a qualified standpoint.
Mhm.
The extra work that happens in terms of Amanda and the district is there needs to be a third interim.
Right. You do a third interim report in May. We analyze it. We take a look at it. We reach out to Amanda. Do you need any additional assistance from the county office? What can we do? And then you guys are putting a plan together to try and clean some of those things up.
Close that gap.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
That's the idea.
What do you
It's a
mean-
budget.
What do you
Yeah.
mean by try to close that gap?
Because essentially by saying we're qualified, we're not meeting that 5%, 3% for us legally.
Yep.
So we're saying in one or more of those 2 out years, we haven't met that 3% reserve. That's what would make us qualified. So we would need some sort of resolution or for reductions or something to make cuts or something to fill that gap.
We
So
provide
so
that, yeah.
gap does need to get filled.
Yes.
So no matter if we submit it's negative.
If you
gotta
submit
give
a
it
negative
pushback and say,
certification,
that can't
we
work.
won't change it. No, we just tell you, okay, what is your resolution? What's your plan to fix it? And you can do a resolution without naming positions or naming things. You can sit there and say, I have a $4 million deficit. I'm not going to meet 3% by 4 million. You see our letters. Our letters say you're short here or there. And then you just give us resolution. We will make reductions, general plan. And then as it gets closer, if those clean up, if it's wider, and then we're there at budget time, then we say, what's the plan?
So then,
We ask for it.
so So then what I'm hearing is even if we get to a qualified status, it still needs to be corrected. And we still need to
You-
make
you-
changes
you-
or plans to get that.
You need to have a plan in place. And again, if you're third year out, it's general. If you're second year out, it's more specific because all of a sudden people don't realize second interim sitting here, the second year out is in what, 3 months,
Yeah, exactly.
right? You're handing me a budget. I got to be able to approve it. It is.
We have a policy. for
extremely
five.
low.
We have- Even
Even
that's low.
Even that's too low.
That might be unheard of.
Just remember.
You,
Trigger.
yeah,
Yes, it's
yeah,
true.
you just have to, and when they say allocate it, you allocate it in the ending fund balance. And you can sit there and say, we're gonna use it for this, this and that. The
Yeah.
board designates what it's for. The board can change that designation at any.
So I guess I've been talking with my mic off.
I'm sorry. I feel like I'm off a little bit, but
No, that's
um,
okay. No, this is all good stuff.
yeah, I will say we cover probably most of it if you want to keep walking through it. Structural balance, reserve adequacy, we just talked about that. One-time usage, labor agreement, that's your collective bargaining agreements that you send to us and we review. Enrollment staffing trends, these are things that we all look at. What's our role? Again, we evaluate
Reserve
all
health,
these things.
can you, I just focus a little bit on reserve health. What's that?
Reserve?
Reserve health.
Oh,
check.
reserve health. We look at your reserves, 3% requirement. You guys have a mandatory 5%, I think is what it is.
For health?
Next
Oh,
slide.
Oh, no,
Fine.
for
Okay,
health.
There, reserve health.
Reserve health, yeah, just take out health. I'm saying your ending fund balance, how
Check,
healthy it is.
okay,
Yeah, it's just how healthy your ending fund balance is.
okay.
If it's dropping, in our letter, we will give you a graph that shows if it's changing or going up. And right now, the one that we have that's negative, the reserve went like this. Great. So even it's below zero, so.
So you look at all these
That is the
variables.
biggest district is the biggest district in the county.
Well, that one.
I know you can't say it.
I can't say anything about that, but it's not the biggest district that's negative.
Oh, well.
Go ahead.
So you do look at salaries and benefits increase?
Yeah.
And
It's all
you
part-
do an
Every time we give a
LCFF?
raise, we submit a report for that specific time, we're just about to submit one.
Yeah, it comes
Okay.
to us and we analyze. If you're negative or qualified, you have to have that 10 days prior to the board agreeing or ratifying it. We ask that we always get 10 days in advance in general, so we have time to review it, work with Amanda if we have questions and we go over everything.
It's like mandatory. if
It's
you're-
mandatory if you're qualified, and if you're qualified status as well, then prior to giving any non-voter approved debt, meaning you want to take a loan out, you want to do a COPS or anything like that, you have to have the approval of the county office. So you send us all this paperwork, we review it. It's good. We think you can pay it back.
Now, quick question, we talked about reserves, 3%, 5%. What are we at right now with our reserves? What kind of percent?
When we closed in 24, 25, we're about 34%.
34.
That doesn't make sense. I'm sorry, Bill.
And follow-up, which is more for you then, is what's the average in the county and, how are we doing compared to other school districts?
34% is healthy. It's what I wish everybody was. I wish everybody was 20% or higher.
Mhm.
And that is not the case. I would say the average is a lot lower, a lot lower. So you're healthy. That looks great. It's what we wish everybody could be. I would love to see reserve that
Is it
percentage
too
stay that way
healthy?
all the time. There's no such thing as too healthy. You could have something happen that could, and I don't even know what it could be, but all of a sudden you just
Pandemic?
take a shot. You could have a pandemic, you could have lawsuits that you weren't prepared for.
Yes.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of things that could happen.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's ever such thing as a healthy or too healthy reserve.
Okay, gotcha.
From a public standpoint, right?
Public
and
standpoint.
There is a such thing as too healthy.
I get it.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's the area that we are concerned about, and that's kind of why you're here, right?
That's your messaging. I mean, you can, and we will always say it's not enough. Always. I mean, if you're 110%, maybe it's enough. But-
Wait, can we address
Let's
that
say it's always
actual
not.
number for a second?
Yeah.
So when you say 110%, and we're talking, we have a 34% plus, my numbers are way larger than that. When you say 34%, are we talking budget of 130 million and we've got 47 million reserves? That's 37.
It's your reserve for 3% is calculated on total expenditures
Got it.
for the
Total
district. Total
expenditure for the
expenditures.
district, let's call it, just for math's sake, real quick. So on $100 million, that's $3 million. Am I missing anything?
Nope.
Okay, so let's just say, and let's just take this number down a little bit. Let's say instead of having 47 million, we have 30 million. So if we're supposed to have 3 million and we have 30 million, I take that as 10 times, not 34% over, but we have 10 times, i.e. 1,000% more than what we need to have. Am I missing something?
I haven't looked at it that
No,
way.
no, no.
math-wise.
Let me do it differently.
I understand what you're saying. You're saying, yeah, double, you know, would 6% would be what, 50?
12 million.
Yeah, would be
Oh, okay,
50%,
percentage.
right? 6 million would be 50% more than
So
3.
I would characterize, you said we're supposed to have 3%. No, that's the bare.
The bare minimum.
You're in deep
But
doo-doo.
we're
at
at
3%.
we're like 1,000% above where we need to be. If we only have to have, let's just say 5 million, okay? And we have 30 million, that's 600% more than we need to have. And according to what you said in your training, if we have 10% more, it has to get spent.
He was saying something different.
Yeah, totally allocated now.
Allocated.
Yeah.
But the thing is we're not at 34%, we're at 600%. Am I missing something?
Percent of
You
total
can look at the
expenditure.
numbers that way, but the way that the budgets are being looked at, the 3% is based on the total expenditures.
Just, let's call it $100 million.
Okay, and the 34% is also based on the,
I understand all
okay,
that.
and yes, you're right, 34% is 10 times 3%.
Okay.
Absolutely, but
I don't know where we get 34%. Maybe I'm just.
It's based straight
Of
on that
expenditure.
number, yeah, of expenditures. It's not based on percentage above 3%. It's just, what is the number, your ending fund balance based on total expenditures? If you take that number and divide it by total expenditures, it's
47 million divided by 145 million.
and it's not tied to that required 3 saying how much, what's my percentage over that 3. It's just, what is my dollar amount I close based on
So,
total expenditures.
I'm so sorry if I be completely stupid. I understand what you said. I can basically 47 divided by 134. But 34% doesn't seem to be a meaningful number, because the meaningful number is the reserve requirement plus our reserve required on top of it. So when we throw things around like, whoa, 34% over, well, we're technically not 34. And I heard what you said. We're 10 times 34, 10 times the 3. But it just doesn't seem like that 34% is a meaningful. Because if we were at 0, that would put us at $5 million.
Take it. Pretty. Bottom line.
Right.
Right.
Well,
If you take 10 to 24, I'm trying to.
that we don't have a handle on what our numbers are. And that this whole thing that we're 34% over, no, we're like 300%.
we're not 34% over. The 34%, that's the percentage of
I get it. I get it.
the expenditures.
I
It's
stop.
not an over.
I will stop my questioning on this, but I know that we don't have a handle on it.
Okay, I'd like to know more what you mean by we don't have a handle, because I think we do. It's
Know
just,
exactly what our numbers are.
yeah, it seems. we
I
don't
agree to
have a
disagree.
Handle.
It's okay.
And
That's why we have
the
got
way
people,
we're all seeing it.
but that's okay.
Yeah.
I just have a different. perspective.
I ran the numbers. I mean, we're within our. So
Oh,
we're
I
at
know that.
34%.
I know we're above what we would put us in.
Yeah.
critical path.
Yeah.
But we're so far over. That is the concern.
Okay.
You agree to disagree?
Absolutely.
That's fine. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, that's fine.
The question I have is, if we, let's say, for example, if we can't, what I'm hearing, you say qualified is not bad, but I kind of hear it's bad because we need to resolve it to get it positive anyway.
You need to resolve it, but
Okay,
yes,
so-
but it's
so
not a
that
bad
case-
thing.
So that case, let's say every single year we ran a new budget, from an MYP standpoint, or our year 3, right, was $1, okay, right above zero. Historically speaking, what we're seeing is even if that is $1, okay, our reserve balance is still gonna grow. And we've seen it grow continually over the last 10 years or so, to the point where we're questioning, hey, from a NYP standpoint, does that mean anything? Because, yeah, it says we're gonna be, have $1, but yet we keep rolling over tens of millions of dollars, it feels like every year.
You're, as long as if you're not using your reserve to, backfill and you've got deficits and you're eating your reserve down, if you're at $1, the language is may or may not be able to meet your financial obligations. So if you're $1, you're not gonna be $1 over your ending balance because then your reserve at that year would be basically zero. You might have a deficit of $1, meaning, or a surplus of $1, meaning your ending fund balance has stayed the same, your deficit dropped by $1. That doesn't change your reserve percentage. Right? It doesn't increase your reserve percentage, doesn't change it. But if your reserve percentage, if you spent everything, you've eaten up all your ending fund balance, and your ending fund balance is your reserve. You've eaten all that up and you're down there, then you're at zero.
Yeah, so
And
sorry,
it's a decision you make if you want to be qualified.
so I guess I meant $1 over our reserve balance.
Yeah, that was clear.
That-
Oh, $1 over reserve balance
Yeah.
of,
Over our five, let's say our 5%. Let's say our 5%
Okay.
number, right? It's over that,
We wouldn't be qualified.
you wouldn't be qualified.
wouldn't be qualified.
No, because you meet your reserve percentage.
Yeah.
The number one
Yeah.
thing is meeting you have 5%.
Yeah.
Yeah, meeting your reserve percentage. If you're at 3%, you meet your reserve percentage. I wouldn't consider you qualified. Even if you were down to 2 and or 1 and you came to me and said, you have districts that do that, and I'd say, you'd be qualified because I think it puts a focus on you have things to fix. But if you don't do it, we're not going to change your
Qualified
your
is a major
certification.
wake-up call.
Yeah, no, I get that, right? I guess the question, which is kind of what Bob's kind of talking about too, right, is we feel like no matter what we do, the ending balance just keeps going up and up and up and
If
up.
it's
every year.
growing, yeah.
Exactly, and this is the challenge we face, because even if we're looking at it ending up at zero, well, in actuality, we actually have $20 million and we projected zero. Gee, we're only off by 20 million.
No.
That doesn't sound right to people who like to play with numbers.
exactly.
Budgeting, it's like, okay, gee, how close are we? Well, gee, you couldn't hit the side of a barn with that number.
You eat a 37% reserve down within a couple of years, I'd be.
So this is
That'd
the
be
thing,
a
we're
bad
supposed to
thing.
show 7 million 3 years out. Thus, we are gonna be $40 million down on this early warning system. I don't believe it. That's the struggle, because all our numbers in the early warning system have been completely off the last decade.
They're always going to be off. Always.
But
It's a budget. Yeah,
Okay,
budgets
so-
are never, I apologize.
No,
to
I
take
am
the
not
tone.
mad at you.
It's
but
just not,
The thing
gonna
is
change.
we know it's gonna be off. The early warning system is now telling us we're gonna be $40 million reduced. Doesn't that freak you out?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. Then what should we be doing if we're gonna be $40 million less than what we're doing right now?
None of our budgets project a negative or qualified.
No, it shows that we're gonna have $7 million in MYP, at the end. I don't have the part right in front of us.
We don't project negative or qualified.
No, we
That's clear.
get that,
But
right?
we're $40 million above where we need to be in 3 years. And you just said, hey, when you're eating that down, that's going to be a problem.
Mhm.
And that's what I'm saying. We're either going to have a significant problem or our budgets are going to continue to grow because we don't have a generates. That's all I'm saying.
I think what I'm hearing is, if we're gonna be losing 40 million in 2 years, we better be scrambling real hard now, is
What I'm
what you're saying, and yet we're just like, everything gonna be fine, right?
Yeah.
You're kind of putting
And that's.
Amanda in a situation because.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
I
this
know,
for.
no, but I know where okay.
I know that's the way it is.
Yeah,
And it's
but I
like,
think things have to be done to correct that.
And
Well,
we've
exactly.
taken steps. I look at things like, we just did this retirement incentive, right? So we did we're looking at things that will help those numbers down the road so that we don't end up there. Another thing that we don't talk a lot about lately that I remember being huge things we talked about when I first got on the board were the STRS and PERS stuff. And I don't know what changed over the last few years, but that was like a topic that we talked about every single budget. And it just was really scary. It was this thing that was super scary. And I'm not saying it's not, but why are we not talking about it the same way? Because those are obligations that we continue to have. Those
Exactly.
didn't go anywhere.
But I think we've done, I remember recently we went over financials, that's that. And it is a scary thing. But it is what it is, but it's a part of the formula, right?
Right, and
We talk about the rates, but they've flattened out, which is why we don't talk
Okay.
about them as much.
Plateau.
They've plateaued
Okay.
versus,
for years, they
Years they
must
were
have been
growing.
going skyrocketing because that was all we talked about when I first got on the board. And it was like, and if that was going to be happening for a long time, yeah, that was
they've
very,
stabilized.
okay.
And we've also, in the last several years, had copious amounts of one-time grants. Funds come in that we do not budget for, therefore they are not in the MYP, then those funds show up.
Exactly.
But we do budget conservatively. We budget that all positions will be filled. We don't budget for grants that we are not guaranteed.
but they often come through, or some will come through.
They did. There were all the
Mhm.
COVID funds. And now when I look at the state budgets, I see them doing these block grants now last couple of years. Will that continue in perpetuity? I don't know.
We don't budget for any, I mean,
We're not going to put in for the third year out that we expect there to be a discretionary block grant.
Right.
But it may turn out that there will be one, and then our reserve will look bigger than we projected 36 months prior.
And sometimes it looks bigger because it hasn't been spent yet. It's
There's
still
the-
going to be
there's the
spent in the
carryover, that's part of it.
potential future year. And I think one of the things we've been discussing is like, is there another way? We get that the MYPs are required and they're required to be done a certain way. Is there a way to create a model where we could get closer? And what I'm hearing you say is there's really no way to do that. And it's not a wise thing to do because
Depends
mean-
on how you want to budget. If you think I'm going to give raises of 2% every single year, you build those into your MYPs. You don't know where your enrollment's going to go, right? You don't know what your revenues are going to be. So you can't really, you budget conservatively
Right.
and do those things. So
I
trying
don't
to hit
think I
those
would do it any
numbers,
differently,
trying to
really.
hit those numbers spot on is going to be impossible.
Yeah.
It'll be impossible for
Like I
all
said,
districts.
So it's a lot of worst case scenario, doesn't include some stuff, and everyone's looks like this.
Everybody looks like that. But some people budget
But then.
not
as your parents would
conservatively.
say,
And then they get into
everybody ran
trouble,
off of
perhaps.
this bill.
And that's
You know,
why we're sitting where we're sitting.
Yeah, the state
With other
budget.
districts.
Everyone's using the same tool and the tool is broken. We need a
That's
different tool, but we're all using the same tool that we have to
You
use.
have to. And so I
I
just,
think the point of the MYP is to update it at each report.
Yeah.
So the point is to adopt a budget and then update it at first interim, update it at second interim, estimate your actuals, you're adopting that next budget, and then you close out. So essentially we have 5 times we're touching those 3 years.
Mhm.
And then we have a whole nother set, and we bring it back. So yeah, that third year out is off, but it gets closer and it gets closer and it gets closer as it becomes the current year.
Yeah.
With all due respect, I don't think it has. If we were to go back and look at the last 5 years, year out number, we're not getting closer.
But
We're not.
To walk you through the 6
the
years.
closer means what was a 3-year projection 3 years ago is now just, say, 1 year in front of us, and our projection for 1 year from now will be
Is
much more accurate
And the 3 year.
than the 3-year.
Yeah.
Agree
Yeah.
100%.
And that's what I took from the governance course on finance and that's what typically happens.
Because now you know sort of where.
Exactly.
It's always been the preference of this board, it's been on the board a long time, to budget conservatively. And it has served us well. We haven't ended up being one of those negative districts.
The many
How you've
negative
ever-
districts. Unfortunately.
I think the board in general still supports that methodology, methodology of being right.
Yeah.
So there's no issues with that, and I don't think any of us are like, hey, let's go spend $47 million. I think the concern more than anything else is we're all making decisions based on what MYP 3 years out looks like, and in reality, when we make decisions and that MYP becomes, $30 million off, right? And so then we all look stupid because we made decisions based on a number that said we were going to be in a certain place, and we're not even close to that. That's the concern.
Especially that becomes relevant when you're looking at potentially March 15th deadline and having to lay people off. And I think that's where I think a majority of us are really concerned is like, we're looking at that MYP 3 years out, trying to prepare for and right the ship by potentially, looking at, are we eliminating positions? And nobody wants to do that. And so I know that's where I'm sitting. Nobody wants to do that. So,
So I'm hearing, okay, so Ryan, what do you suggest? I mean, you're bringing up that we're never meeting, we're always over estimating things. So do we tighten up how we're doing our current projections, multi-year projections? Or what do we do? I mean, you keep bringing this up, so I just like to know what the solution is. Do we stay with the status quo, or do we do something different?
I don't have a suggestion.
There you go.
David, you said you had a suggestion last. We're going to put numbers together.
And I did, and I found out is we're within that margin that
It would be nice if the rest of us knew what that was. I believe that you actually did the number, but I just don't know what that looks like, and that would probably answer. And maybe cabinet, let's present what David came up with, rest of the board.
There are other metrics to look at too, like how are our employees compensated in comparison to all other employees in the other 43 districts in the county? Where do we stack there?
That was number 2, actually.
Yeah, we're up in the 85 percentile, 80 to 90 percentile, and that we're probably second.
That's what
And that we're.
I think part of the
Also look
question
at
is
staff.
also how did we get here? And I know this was a lot to process for everybody's, but I'm happy to go through it, which was part of what I thought the board.
Well,
wanted to go
sadly,
through.
tonight, I don't necessarily think I learned anything on how.
We haven't done it yet.
We haven't gotten to it. It's the next few slides up.
Happy to do
Why don't you
it.
go ahead?
So my piece is done. Would
thank
you,
you. Thank you for
you have
being here.
questions for me or anything else?
Okay, I got to take it too.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
You did
Thank
you did a fantastic
I
job.
appreciate it.
You
It's helpful.
Here's the thing, you reassured the direction that we're going is in the correct direction.
Sure, yeah.
Considering that I'm assuming you've reviewed a lot more school districts.
42 of them, 5
Every
times a year for 15 years.
So where we
You guys
rank-
make me happy. So
Well, okay, so I was gonna ask for a ranking, but that's okay.
37%,
Make him
A plus.
Okay, A plus, okay, thank you.
You make us happy.
Okay, good. That's nice.
Yeah.
So we want having somebody
Mike, we
visit.
missed it.
Yeah.
I will let him know. I'm sorry. I know Mike
With a
brings
lot
a
of
different
it.
level of energy. You got the second string, but I hope it was.
Thank you.
Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome. You're welcome.
My job to give a resolution.
Okay,
Job to
but-
give,
I don't have the answers.
yeah, direction. It's my job to bring up issues. It's your job to fix it. Not my job to fix it.
So, you know.
But what we're saying is nothing.
Grab a bite while.
Rest of this. Out of SID 7, I don't agree with the set that. Like 15 minutes over, so our multi-day sections.
Our multi,
There you go.
we're not budgeting that far out on.
Oops,
Did my family love them? Now take it out of my next.
Oh,
I'll buy a new one.
didn't budget. There goes the multi. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got to balance that.
Oh, we're going
The
to
data,
qualify.
man. So what it was,
Yeah, Martine will be right here. Go ahead and.
Oh, we're waiting for my.
Okay.
Wait, hold on. Are we gonna wait for my team? Probably not.
He'll be right here. We could probably
We can get
start.
started.
Yeah.
Probably what we'll do. Okay, we can dive in to the next section.
yeah,
So for this part, we will spend the next chunk of time reviewing the growth, the unrestricted fund balance that occurred primarily from 2021 through 23-24. Basically, what you're looking at is this chart that shows the last 10 years of the unrestricted fund balance and the actual change that occurred in each year. You can see the most significant growth occurred in those 4 back-to-back years from 2021 through 23-24. So that's why we're going to primarily focus on those years. There's going to be a slight preamble in 2019-20, simply to cover the totality of the pandemic, since you'll see that's an important part of that growth. What you'll be seeing and what you want to pay attention to as we review each fiscal year are one or more of the four following things. Changes to the cost of living or COLA after adoption. There's several key years with significant changes to COLA that greatly impact our budget, and those occur after adoption.
How is that determined, the COLA? How is that?
A statutory number that is actually determined, it's a federal number, but then the governor determines whether to fully fund it or not. And so then that's what gets plugged into LCFF, the local control funding formula, which is how our funding gets
It's
determined.
not the same as the consumer price index.
Okay.
It's like I like to think of it as a consumer price index for school districts. We look at the basket of goods and services that government agencies such as school districts would need to use and develop the. It's like our own unique.
Use COLA for social.
I don't think it's the same.
There's a cost of living.
There's a cost of living adjustment, but
I don't know if it's the same.
Probably has it probably has a different formula. The one that we're talking about is more specific to school.
The cost of living adjustments. OLA cost of living adjustment.
You know, it's the COLA unique to school districts. It's not the same as the consumer price index that most people think of when they're looking at the inflation rate. Now, they might often be similar,
Sure. Yeah.
but they're not.
Okay, thank you.
Then the second item you're going to pay attention to is the pandemic and the conditions it created, whether that's COVID funds, the impact of those dollars, or the operational savings. Both of those things we either didn't know at adoption, didn't know the impact of those things, and they would greatly change the ending fund balance. Increases in average daily attendance, or ADA, unduplicated pupil percentage or count, UPP or UPC, and enrollment. Prior to these years, we had very small enrollment declines. Our ADA had been pretty stable at 94%.
Because you guys put in a good system to manage that, correct?
It's a pretty average
Dr.
number for
Cassidy.
high school districts pre-pandemic.
I think, yeah, but I think you guys put in procedures when people were taking time off. I know you guys did a presentation on how you set up systems to encourage vendors that are taking more time off of school and that. I don't agree with EDAs. I think somebody's sick, they have to stay home, or they have other underlying
You
conditions.
want to get out of here? Don't go there.
Okay. But anyhow,
We would love to be funded on enrollment, yes.
yeah,
But we are funded
exactly.
on ADA. And then our unduplicated pupil percentage pre-pandemic was hovering right around 70%. But you'll see very significant changes to all three of those things, both up and down, as we roll through those years. And then the last item to watch for is going to be changes to the LCFF formula and ADA calculation. Both of those impact whether it's the hold harmless with the pandemic ADA, changes to the actual ADA calculation, or changes to the actual LCFF formula. All of those things happen multiple times in a year or single times, and they happen after adoption. So we'll start with 1920, the first year, pandemic year one, budget versus actual. So that year was a $2.2 million variance. We had a 43 student enrollment gain, which is a little novel. And then a 221 unduplicated student pupil gain, which is very significant for LCAP and supplemental and concentration funding. And then we had essentially $1.4 million in pandemic savings, essentially for being closed for 109 days, which reduced hourly costs, supplies that we would need, utilities. That quick summary there. We'll jump into revenue and expense changes a little more deeply. Revenue increased about $1.3 million. LCFF was $420,000 of that. As I mentioned, the enrollment and the unduplicated pupil summed up those two. We had a small amount of federal revenue, about 237,000. Local revenue was the majority, $976,000. And that's basically a hodgepodge of things. 239,000 from a copier buyout, $130,000 more than we thought in facilities. STRS excess was 133,000. So just a little hodgepodge of a bunch of things that, you know, again, revenue is a thing that we will budget less for. And if it comes in better, we're much happier about that. We also decreased our contributions that year due to the pandemic closure. So this would be a combination of contributions to special education and our routine restricted maintenance, which makes sense because we were closed for 109 days. So routine restricted maintenance is a percentage that we have to contribute based on expenditures. So if our expenditures are less, our contribution is going to be less. And then special education, we were closed. But we're going to have less expenses, whether that's vacancies that we didn't have to fill, contracts that cost us less, all of that. That totaled $1.1 million in contributions that we were budgeted, we did not have to spend. So as I mentioned, $1.4 million in pandemic savings, hourly savings like summer school costs, utilities, reduced materials. It actually totaled about $3.4 million in pandemic savings, but we come up with 1.4 because it essentially negated the $2 million in salary increases that year. So when you look at that, it's 1.4 above the $2 million that the salary increases would have cost us that year.
So the thing that's like kind of freaking me out. So I think what you did here is good, but then we don't do this exact model for the next years. Like the way you present it, changing, and I'm not like, I can't get my brain around. It's like, had you done this each of the next 5 years, I'd be like, oh, there, variance, enrollment, duplicated.
I'm talking through it.
But it looks different on all these different. So it's hard to track. So, okay, let's go.
For the second year, it was a $15.5 million variance. So this is the largest swing you'll see in 5 years that we're going to talk about. I think if we think back to 2021 and we really try to relive this year, we were living by the seat of our pants this year.
Oh, yeah.
This was the year of colors. If we remember, the governor created phases in colors for red and orange and purple. And here in EUHSD, we aligned the reopening of our schools by those colors. So we had learning pods for special ed and ELD that began in October. 92 days closed with no students. So, and then our seniors didn't return until March. That was 265 days until the seniors came back on campus. Our freshmen came back in April, 286 days, and all students didn't return to campus for 293 days that year. So that was the year the state essentially had no idea what COVID was going to do to their budget or economy either. So they predicted a negative 10% COLA, which essentially was their way of telling us they were going to give us a 10% cut to our funding.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Exactly. So that's what they said to plan for. As you mentioned, it didn't happen, but that's what we budgeted for, and that's what we adopted in the budget. They ended up giving us just a 0% COLA that year. In addition to the change in COLA, the state realized that all the districts were going to be in a various state of flux with reopening, and the pandemic would cause a dramatic drop in attendance. So they basically opted for a hold harmless that year for ADA, which meant that attendance wouldn't be counted and everyone would just reuse their 1920 attendance. This would be a positive impact for us, not just for the current year, but for future years as well, because it would duplicate 1920 as an option for essentially the next year that's coming.
Or losing. Good tip.
Exactly.
Now we're paying. It's a bunch of students.
Exactly. So without that, 2021 we would have seen a sharp drop because of that. So the increase in COLA, the hold harmless, and our unduplicated pupil increase helped our LCFF revenue increase $7.2 million. And then we had over $7 million in savings due to the pandemic and over $17 million in pandemic funds that we got. We had almost 9 full-time equivalent or FTEs less staff that we had also on the unrestricted side, but 18 more on the restricted side. This speaks to many of the services that we implemented once we had all those COVID dollars. So essentially, if you think about the fact that we had 9 less staff on one side of the budget, but we had 18 more on this side and we had a bunch of restricted funds. Obviously, we're implementing all these services on the restricted side of the budget with people that probably wandered over from the unrestricted side of the budget
Probably.
to the restricted side of the budget, which is what manifested some of the $7 million of savings. They were no longer being funded out of the unrestricted side of the budget. They were being funded with these COVID funds, doing services that we needed them to do at that time. So we no longer needed them to perform some of these services over here on the restricted side. '21-22, reopening campuses. This year we fully reopened. Start every single campus. We've got a $6.6 million variance. One of the key changes that occurred this year was an increase in enrollment. Little quite out of the norm, and in the pandemic, to be honest, we were a little wondering what was going on, but okay, that's what CBEDS, that's what we certified, so they're here. And so it just seemed kind of par for the course with the pandemic. Even our enrollment couldn't just be what was expected. That was even out of the norm for us. We also, again, had a massive increase in our unduplicated. So while we had seen a 200 student increase in the last 2 years, this year gave us nearly 700 students, additional unduplicated students. Massive. So another curveball we got from the state was a change in the LCFF formula that made that unduplicated student number even more significant. When they adopted the state budget, they increased that supplemental funding percentage from 50% of the base grant to 65. So we got an extra 15% of the base grant for all those unduplicated students.
And with the unduplicated students going up that much, was there some kind of reclassification or something? Is there some reason why we had all of a sudden so many?
I was thinking back to this. I think just in this time with the pandemic, there were just a lot of people that were losing jobs, working remotely, qualifying for, we were going through our CEP transition as well. So I think it was just a combination of switching from the free lunch program to our CEP provision. It was the pandemic where people were transitioning from different employment to not employment and qualifying for different assistance that just.
Is that also about the same time that the free lunch program just opened up to everyone?
For our case, the CEP is one of those universal programs. I don't know if we were feeding everybody congregate feeding anyway, but I'm not sure if the state, I think the universal feeding happened the following year, once the
But around the same
pandemic.
time.
We were already there because of the
Yeah.
community eligibility provision that we qualified for.
Okay.
I think it's a combination of the pandemic employment situation people were going through, where there were some people that were still, I know people were collecting unemployment for a variety of things, and that situation would have made you qualify for more. And then
That helped us on funding.
it did. It did. That's the year the state would have also introduced a second year of the hold harmless for ADA. So that was basically due to the impacts of quarantine, isolation, and especially the Delta and Omicron viruses that really impacted December, January, and February. They knew districts needed an alternative solution. So essentially what that ended up happening is for us, we had 1920 ended up being like 3 years of ADA for us. And basically that year, 21, 22, you just adjusted it for your enrollment. So obviously they realized it had been a couple years, so you had to at least adjust it for your enrollment in the current year. But again, for us, it was now we're 2 years since 1920, and we're still using 1920 ADA. We also happened to be awarded a bus grant that year. That was $2.4 million.
Oh, those were some big, beautiful buses.
They were big, beautiful buses. That was a significant boost to our revenue that wasn't budgeted for. We also got an additional.
Though, right?
Huh?
It eventually got spent.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
it just comes and goes.
Absolutely.
Right?
And then $15.1 million in pandemic relief funds additional that year. Included mostly ESSER 3, which was 14.1, and a few specific special education grants. One from the California Department of Public Health also that we used for COVID staff and testing staff and contact tracing personnel. Also people that we were already employing, but now we actually had a grant to pay for them.
ESSER is?
Emergency,
Fund.
elementary, secondary, emergency recovery. I have it. in-
COVID funding.
It's
There you go.
COVID.
That's all I need.
Sorry,
And there were like 3 rounds.
School
there were, and it is on like the first page. Yeah, it's like elementary, secondary, and something.
That's fine. COVID funding is all I need.
Mhm.
Oh, it's been so many years now. Anyway, so the ESSER funds we used to pay for certificated subs, which we significantly increased the rate from $120 to $180 a day. For long-term, it was $140 to $200. So basically, everyone in the county was doing that as well to try and attract subs. But that was something we could utilize those funds for. This was the same year we also built our 3 wellness centers, which we also utilized COVID dollars for. So as I mentioned, going into 22, 23 now, we're still going to talk more about one-time funding. So we have this year, we thought we were going to feel quote normal. And I think this might have been the year we realized this is the new normal. We really started, our schools opened on schedule, even though the decision tree was still a thing and we were still contract tracing and antigen testing and we were still doing isolation. But we were at least doing at-home testing with antigen tests and there was vaccination relief and things like that. So that was at least the flavor of 22, 23 when we opened. For us financially, the story revolves around the large boost in COLA and again, significant one-time funding received. The COLA and LCFF was augmented by 6.70 in addition to the funded COLA that was 6.56. To create a combined funding of 13.26% impact to the LCFF formula. And then our UPP also increased by another 187 students, bringing our single year percent to over 82% and our 3-year average to almost 80%. So in 4 years, we showed about a 10% increase in our unduplicated pupil percent.
So the COLA, it was,
And it
We
went up.
budgeted for.
that's
And
what
it
you
went-
budget for?
And they actually ended at
13.
13.26. These are extraordinary times.
Yeah.
Right.
So our UPP is going up and enrollment is going down.
Starting to now. We
What's
had,
interesting about, I'm sorry, go ahead.
had
What's interesting about that is COLA doubled. I think that our balance would
Well,
Why? It would go up. We got more money.
perhaps we didn't.
the state gave us more.
States
They
have-
gave us-
Balance goes up.
We didn't pay it out.
So the balance
We
goes
look
up.
at
Correct.
what was in that year's.
Got it.
So the state also new districts would
About
face
10% across the three labor groups.
yeah,
So a net 3.
and
But I mean, if we
Right.
got 13 paid out,
Right.
so it's a net positive 3, not 13.
Right.
Well, it's just revenue. So,
yeah.
Right,
yeah.
but I'm just saying
We
that.
thought we'd get 6.56 per student who attends each day. We actually got 13.
It wouldn't
Increase
equate
per
the-
student who attends each day.
It wouldn't equate the percentage we receive to the same percentage we pay out,
Got it.
right? For apples and oranges.
Yeah.
They're all fruit, but.
That's
they're
who you
not the
talk
same.
to, of course.
What?
Depends who you're talking to, of course, but
Absolutely. Be my version. So for the state, they knew we would be facing an ADA cliff. As obviously, as I mentioned, we've been doing this hold harmless. Districts are using the same ADA years and years in a row. So they introduced the 3 prior year average to help soften the landing, which is what we have now. It's one of the new 3 options. So what that did for us though in 22-23 is we averaged the 3 prior years, which essentially is 1920. 1920. Exactly. So all these things combined, as I mentioned, the COLA, the unduplicated, basically was approximately $8 million more than we thought at adoption. The 22-23 was really kind of that shift from this COVID pandemic to learning loss. That's like the fancy word that came, learning loss. And this was the significant funding we got was the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant. When Educator Effectiveness Block Grant came into play, the A-to-G grant came into play. So it's a shift from that COVID relief to learning loss. $17 million more in one-time funding. So this is a good moment, and we kind of hit on it earlier to talk about the one-time funding and grants and budgeting. We've hit on that we're conservative. The county, Brent mentioned it, but we don't budget for one-time funding or grants until we have that cash in hand. So, the governor's talking about one-time block grants. We won't budget that in our adoption in June. We'll recognize it at first interim when it's real. So that's been our historic practice. That's when the county's guidance will tell you to recognize it when it's real. The learning recovery was a good example. They adopted it. We actually recognized it at first interim. This year, it was actually cut in the 23-24 budget. They reduced the amount that the learning recovery block grant was and the arts music instructional materials. That's why we waited almost a year to spend those funds, because we knew they were going to reduce it. Wanted to see how much money we actually had. And then now they're actually paying us back for the learning recovery. It's a little silly. But that is part of the reason we.
Do we wait to spend it also because we have to negotiate how it's spent? So then that, no, not necessarily.
We're not necessarily waiting to spend it. We're waiting just to identify it in our budget so that the dollar is real. The amount we get is real.
Do we have to negotiate the amount or just how it's spent? Does that make sense? Like if you have to negotiate it, then
we don't, unless we get a demand to bargain.
Which we had for that one, correct?
Educator effectiveness.
Yes,
think we did get one. Yes.
And so in that situation where you get a demand to bargain for that grant, you really do need to know how much you're going to get before you actually bargain for it. Okay. Just a little more context, because that all makes it all.
You absolutely, Dr. Casas.
Yeah, and then sometimes even when we do have the money and we want to come up with a new program, we might budget, say, I don't know, 1.8 million for said program, but we can't spend the 1.8 million until we negotiate the impacts and effects.
Okay.
So that might be sitting
They
there.
sit there for a while, and it looks like a carryover. It looks like right.
Could be a year sometimes. In fact, it did happen on like 2 occasions.
Okay, that's helpful too.
So So those are just good information to know about these block cards because they have been significant and they have been happening. Sometimes, the educational grants are different. They apply for them. And they let us know, which is fantastic. But we'll find out about them later. CTE grants are the same. We'll find out when we're funded. And then we work them into the budget. But we don't plan for those unless we know we're going to get them and we get them in hand. So let's see. So we talked about how, and so sometimes they also change how they're distributed. A lot of times it's based on ADA, but sometimes they work unduplicated pupils into the mix. And so you can't even just assume that you're going to know how it's going to be distributed. LREBG, Learning Recovery, was based, they worked unduplicated pupils into that. And like I said, later on, they ended up cutting both of those grants in the 23-24 state budget. Let's see. So this year, as I mentioned, we continued to fund certificated subs. We also continued to fund our bilingual instructional assistants, our lab class assistant positions and extra hours, had MTSS, our multi-tier system of support team positions, our licensed mental health clinicians, an additional behavior specialist, our studio cycle time cards, interns from High Tech High, our new A to G coordinator. These were all positions that we funded out of one-time funds. We had a similar trend the prior year where we had a reduction, similar trend this year as the prior years. A reduction in certificated staff, over 9 full-time equivalents when we closed out the year. We didn't quite see the huge shift on restricted because many of the programs were continuing. What we saw is a lot of the programs that we were running maybe out of ESSER 1 or ESSER 2 or ELO, which is expanded learning. Those grants were ending and we were shifting those positions that we wanted to continue into the next grant that we were getting, like ESSER 3. We wanted those positions to continue. We wanted to keep those services. So we were just moving those positions into different grants that we wanted to continue. We didn't see that big shift in restricted because they were just being maintained. But we saw like the time cards, sub time, those were still savings to us that we were still reaping some of the benefits of. The large savings, something to remember too is that when we have either reduced staffing, those also impact those pension costs that you were talking about, Christy. They also impact health benefits. So any vacancies or reductions in staffing will save us on pension, STRS, PERS, and health benefits. Because if we have a vacancy, we're budgeting for them to also have health benefits. And if we have a reduction in any of that, we're going to save on the pension and we're going to save on the health benefits too.
That happened with retirees as well. Like once employees move into a retired status, we're going to save on health benefits. That category will
We'll shift to the bridge. So I mean, we'll have some cost there, but it's not the same.
Okay.
It's not this. There is savings because the bridge is significantly less. So that combined with the funds from the grants, we were able to help offset the large raises that we did give that year. The 23-24, we're heading into this last year, the most recent one. It's a $3 million variance we were talking about in the budget and how we closed at unaudited. This year, our LCFF wasn't impacted as greatly as it had been in the prior years, except for that 3 prior year average. We mentioned ADA was really propping us up. Our ADA was higher than the number of students enrolled in the district because of all those 1920s factored in. Our district had declined about several hundred students by then, so we were falling off a little bit, and we were still propped up in 1920 ADA. This was, go ahead.
Now, when you're with your budget, you say you're budgeted 4.9 million increase, actuals 0.9.
Mm-hmm.
What budget number was that? Is that a first actual budget for the year?
It would have been adoption. Yeah. So the request was to compare adoption to
Actual.
how we closed.
Yeah, that's a
Yes.
$3 million variance off of a $140 million expense. That's good.
Can live with that.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're like, I see the smile.
Getting
You're like,
closer.
it's a yes.
Getting close. So let's see, this was generating, about $250,000 in LCFF revenue for us in the prior formula, and our UPP was still up, but only about 53 students, not the hundreds that we were getting during the pandemic. Our revenue increased this year, mostly due to local revenue, which did increase about $3.8 million, 1.7 of which was interest. Which, we had our quarterly report at the last, it's held at the county treasury. They have the interest rate. It's, the way they post it is it's a little delayed, so we're never gonna have the most up-to-date information on that. 700,000 of it was due to, called the GASB 31. Oh, go ahead, David, do you have a question?
Yeah, I was going to ask, you said a significant savings in utility and
Mhm.
school site budget. Can you,
Yeah, utilities. So during the pandemic, we were actually able to do some LED upgrades at our school sites since there were not a lot of people around. We actually had our maintenance team go around and do LED bulbs in all of our classrooms. And so between that and some of the other energy efficient things that we were able to do, we started seeing some of the
you
utility
say
savings.
it's significant savings, like were you able to get a percentage of what that was?
The exact dollar amount in
That's
20.
pretty amazing.
23, 24 was.
How much we did had him come do a presentation. A lot of money.
I think it was like, I want to say it was between $700,000 that year in utilities. And
Buying new lights will do for you, right?
Right.
Wow.
and we invested, and we did it with our
Workshop,
own
electric
maiden.
light- Electric lighting.
Yeah, right. Was that a soft sales or what?
Yep, and we did it with our own staff, which was great.
Oh, there you go, Hunter University.
It was nice. So yeah, the other chunk there, it's GASB 31, which is a governmental accounting standard. This is, you might see this happen every year or so, but basically this is an adjustment from the prior year. It's simply a paper adjustment due to fair market value of our investments. So basically, if the county, if our investments at the county are off by our auditors would call material, significant amount, we have to physically adjust it in our books. And we're not selling any of our investments. It's just done on paper because this accounting is basically saying that we need to account for the actual value of those investments at the close if it's a material difference, which is usually 10% is what they usually say is a material difference. So, and so this year it happened to be, and so we had to make that adjustment at close. And so this is, again, there's a debit and a credit that wipes it out in accounting land. So it really doesn't fiscally impact us, but it will the following balance to it all in accounting land. So, but you'll see it. So that's, you have to kind of explain it out.
Okay.
Additional impacts to local, again, we had another bus grant. This one's $659,000. We had our MA or Medi-Cal reimbursements, $250,000. And then again, a combination of facilities, STRS, excess, donation, all summed up for that 3.8 million of.
Were those all electric buses?
Just the one, the 659,000 was just the one. And I'm not sure, we haven't always gone electric. We have a combination of electric and the efficient diesel, because we don't want to be all electric. We want to be able to run in case the power turns off.
Exactly.
We have a combination.
It's another issue.
Our expenses only rose by 1.5 million that year. Again, we had a decrease in unrestricted staff, shifting from services that we needed on the restricted side. Of those same MTSS sections, credit recovery, sub costs. We're still taking advantage of those. We already talked about the LED bulbs. We were also, one more thing that impacted our utilities. We were also able to set our HVAC back to our normal settings, where we weren't running the fans all the time, which we were doing during the pandemic. So setting them back to normal run times really helped in addition to the LED bulbs. Forgot about that. So that helped.
How are you running them all?
It was part of the requirements for the CDPH to have circulation. Or circulation.
Let's recirculate that. When we're inside, we have to have all the doors open.
Ain't us over here. Doesn't see the rationale.
And again, as I mentioned, reduced staff or vacancies. Also, we saved on pension and health and welfare savings. With those savings. So all of that is how we got to that significant growth in the fund balance. You know, they weren't formatted the same way, but that was essentially how we got to 47 million. We did deficit spend last year, so we did not add to the fund balance, which is why I did not include 24 or 25. And to a very quick wrap up, unless there's questions on the fund balance.
No. Thank you. But I do, when we wrap it up, I do have one request from you. Okay?
Absolutely. So just a few highlights. Normally, we would talk about the impact on the governor's budget, but we will not do that tonight. We will present a full second interim to you guys. Similar to what we do at first interim, we will present that in a couple weeks. So essentially just 5 critical or just, you know, related to EUHST things we'll talk about from the governor's budget. Prop 98 settle up money, COLA, discretionary block grant, learning recovery block grant repayment, and special education funding boost.
Explain the this settle up delayed
Yes, absolutely.
handbagging concept for me.
Absolutely. So essentially, this is similar to what happened last year, just significantly larger. So what the governor did last year, I think it was just under $2 billion. He's just undershooting his revenue for Prop 98. He's not using the calculation the way it should be. The calculation will say it's this number. But he's saying, I'm going to give you 5 billion less. I'm going to say it's 5 billion less. Because I don't want to overshoot and I don't want to owe you more money. But that's not really the way it works. So, you know, CSBA, all the letters, all the people will tell him it's unconstitutional. And if he was really worried about, you know, a budget problem, he wouldn't be spending the money. He would be putting it away and saying like, okay, just in case, you know, this comes up, I'll put it in the rainy day fund and then I'll give it to you when I owe it to you. But what he's doing is he's solving, as Bob said, he's solving his non-Prop 98 problem with Prop 98 money because he's taking it and spending it on his other side of the budget, essentially, because that's where he needs it. He does have a budget problem. He needs money on the other side, but
I need to finish the train.
So how does that affect us?
how does that, so essentially we could have more, we could have $909 more per student if he funded us at the level we should be. And that goes into perpetuity. So by shorting us now, he's shorting us in perpetuity. And so that is the downside, is if he lowers the floor now, he lowers the floor in perpetuity. Versus putting the floor where it should be, and at least it keeps it funded where it should be.
So based on that, how do you develop a budget with that fluid?
We'll use what he gives us now because that's what it is now. But essentially, it
So it's
also
going to offset, I mean, your values that you're going to get.
it could. I mean, the additional worry right now is, he made good on his promise last year. He's settled up, but
He settled up, but he sent it late after our adopted budgets. Which
Yeah.
causes a higher
Mhm.
variance.
Exactly.
and this one will be bigger, and we're going to get a new governor. So who knows if the next governor is going to keep their promise, because when you suspend, so if he really had a problem and he really didn't want to pay us, he would suspend Prop 98, which is what they did in 23, 24. And then there's a specific formula and a specific way to pay us back. And I believe we get interest on it too. But there's a very specific way, and we're owed it. Nobody's going to forget it. And there's accounting. There is really he can give it to us when they get money, when they feel like it. And the next person, who knows how or when or if they will pay us back.
So how does that affect funding going forward with that
There's no
unpredictability?
guarantee. There's no guarantee we will see this $5 billion.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so you.
For lack of a pun, I'm not very
Yeah.
good with them, but there's no guarantee we will see this $5 billion if he doesn't include this.
You were saying did it before, but it was late, so it's hard to plan
I mean,
accordingly.
he made good, which is what he's kind of saying, but again, he's not going to
He's
be,
gonna make good again.
that's what he's saying, but he's not going to be in office.
Right, so it doesn't.
He'll make good.
Cost of living, this one's pretty straightforward. He's proposing to fund the statutory COLA, which right now is 2.41. Usually a little more firm right now, but the government shutdown has, it's a little domino effect. Where they're a little behind on the, statutory numbers. There are some experts that say it could come in a smidge higher, so we will see. That sounds positive. But that does mean the governor has to come up with some more money if it does come in higher. So it does make his budgetary problems a little worse if the COLA comes in higher because he's got to grab some more cash. Discretionary block grant. Again, this similar to what we had this year. Right now, there's $2.8 billion available. It's discretionary and spend it how we like. There is some language around recommended things on student support and professional development on statewide priorities, but they're
And in a situation,
recommendations.
a block grant like this, you are not, it's not a competitive grant. It's literally every school district will get it. Okay.
Right now, it's based on he's recommending on ADA.
Right, okay.
And it's $512. But there could be unduplicated pupil. There's, it depends. The legislature now has their opportunity to get in the mix and say what they want. How did you have?
No, the number. We got 482, but 5.8.
And that could change.
Yeah.
Again, if there's more money in the budget, that number could change and could go up. Learning Recovery Block Grant. So as I mentioned, this was initially given to us in 22-23. The following year in the state budget, they cut it. But with a promise to pay us back. So they're making good. We got a portion of it this year. And they were sort of making like 3/3 payment. But he's decided he's recommending, his proposal is to give us both the last 2/3 next year, which is nice because he's not extending the deadline to let us spend it any longer, and it's done in 27-28.
And it's based on attendance from that year, so that should be high.
All the way back in time.
Really?
Yes.
That's good. So that was a high year for us, 21, 22, so that'll be good.
Ballpark is the last little bit will be about $1 million. We got about 500,000, so we're guessing the last 2/3 will be 2 times the 500,000 that we got.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's our ballpark right now.
We already, and that one was.
People in position. Good thing. And then SPED, special ed funding increase. So he's proposing not only to give them the cost of living, which is great, but he's going to give another $509 million to equalize the rates statewide. So the base rate will be $999. I don't know why we couldn't make it.
What was it before?
That's a great question. I'm not
Okay.
exactly sure, but I can figure that out.
Increase.
But yes, I don't know why we couldn't make it 1,000 would have made.
Number.
But
Yeah, it's like those cells, right? It says 99.9.
I know.
Mhm.
But this
They're
is
rounding it up.
funding that goes through our SELPA, the Special Education Local Plan area. So this goes through them and then gets distributed to our SELPA, then comes to us. So next step. Second interim, I will present a second interim to the board. It feels like a week, but it's like 2 or 3. But then the May revise, that's the next big point for us. The governor will present his updated budget proposal, will give us a lot more insight onto where it will be.
So June is your landing for
Budget.
budget.
But essentially, we're building it in late April and May.
Okay, gotcha.
This is essentially why May revise for us is like the last best numbers we're gonna get from the governor. And that wraps up where we're at
Well,
for
good job.
questions.
Yeah, okay, well, I don't have so much as questions. I think you put a lot of effort in developing this. Be nice if it was summarized. Can we make suggestions? in
Absolutely.
Summary, I'd appreciate it on that. So when I look at things and review it, it would be nice if we had like a summary of each section. So like, if you take this as a, we have like this 10-year thing. I would like to see percentage for each one, the differential, and then a total, including offset on the SKU data, which is the 300%. No, I already did that.
I did yours.
Okay, I already did. Also, if we could summarize the expenses, like over the last 10 years, or I think in here based on, I'm not sure if it's 10 years, yeah, 10 years, or not 10 years, or like maybe 6 years.
You just want
Or,
the
yeah, like
6.
for summary of negotiations.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, I've already done it, but it would be nice if we could just have a front page that summarizes all the critical summary of all the critical data in here. Broken it down, which is good, and then you brought it over here. But it would be nice to see the percent variance for each one. You put it here, but it would be nice on the same table. That's all I request. As well as, and I think this here is already broken down. I understand the reason why, this one here. So those are the only things. So it would be nice to be doing a side-by-side comparison between what we negotiated on salaries and that summarized in the last 6 years, and then this one with the variance. And that's, I think it would be easier for me to digest.
If I could summarize that, that's it. I mean that sincerely. You're like, and this is where I am at, like, well, I really want to know where we're going to be now, even though there will be discrepancies for June. Because, like, yes, we know these numbers, you know, like the block grant and this and that, but it's like, can we get a more specific, like, based on what we're doing, not using the software? And we're at a $47 million fund balance now. These 22 things, we're going to probably be at this fund balance. Because then, I mean, who knows? Everybody could get, we could give ourselves to $1,400 a month raises now. But the thing is that thinking that, like you said, the summary, then for the next one, because got all the what ifs in the 25 settle up proposal. It's like, I'd kind of like to know a little bit, like I wrote 4 point. Came up with. Like you have these 3 major numbers related to the state where to go. This here. So like all these numbers are statewide numbers. So like, hold on, 2.41. What's an actual number as it relates to our district? 2.8 billion new discretionary funding, 512, I think that's down here. Earning recovery grant repayment, 757 million. What does that mean for our district? Special education funding boost, 509 million. What does that mean to our district? Yeah, you can be off. You can be off by 25% as far as I'm concerned. But it's like, I need to know specifically how it affects our district.
You want,
Yeah, we'll just take each of those 5 sections and put a number for this. Instead of just 5 numbers, the settle up for our district would be X dollar amount. Okay, plus or minus 25%. And call it X amount for. And that way we can say, oh, we have 47 million. Changes.
Yeah, just to clarify, that's for budget adoption. Because these are for 26, 27.
Oh, you're going to present in
But in 2 weeks, we
2 weeks.
revise the current year's budget.
Right, but let's just make sure we're super. Because it seems like. Never, but
But the second interim, what it does is it takes into account that we've lived most of the year through January 31, right?
Yeah,
So
I mean, this will impact 2026, 27. So for the 26, 27 year, we'll update the COLA. Well,
The MYPs.
the MYPs.
yes.
we-
we're showing a $40 million drop and I don't want to, I want us to be. I don't think we're. I could be wrong.
No, we don't want to see 40 million.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's right. That's why I'm saying instead of having general state numbers. Specifically,
Which is what we do.
we'll see.
Yeah.
Okay,
Do that's what the MYP is. And remember that the P and MYP is projection, not prediction.
Yeah.
If they were predictions, then I would agree. Boy, we do a horrible job. We're awful in our predictions. The projections, they take where we're at this moment in time and project forward 12 months, 24 months, 30 months, based on if things keep going the way they are, and adding the assumptions about what we think enrollment will be and what the state's telling us will be. This is where you would end up. So it's a projection, not a prediction.
Projection.
I will say that I feel better about the MYP. Right, just in terms of the need for where it needs to be at our relationship with the county and the requirements that we sit under. I do feel better about that understanding in terms of where we are and where we need.
I was going to echo that because one of the things that you mentioned that really struck with me was, even with all the changes and all the stuff that comes up and all the unknowns, Amanda was off $3 million on the budget. And that's a decent percentage. That's good. Okay. The MYP is not the budget. The MYP is almost like, well, what's the worst case scenario if all the shit happens in the world? And hey,
It's risk mitigation.
exactly. So, I know I was one of the crowd, complaining about the MYP not matching the budget. And like you said, Ryan, I understand that now. What I do like though is, I know we've seen through some of the stuff we've done. Our teachers are some of the highest paid in the district, in the county. Okay, we do, and we have a strong reserve. Actually, that's a good thing. So, I'm going to say, we're looking pretty good there. We'll have the budget in June, which will give us better numbers of where we will be next year, not 3 years from now, but next year. And I see that, we got $28 million just from extra COVID funding over the past 4 years. That much is evident. I know when I still had my business, I got a bunch of COVID funding too, which really helped out the business too then. So I could see how that all helps. So I want to say thank you for the presentation and thank you for what you've been doing because we're looking good.
So I was confident coming in here, the numbers you put together, because I already researched and did my due diligence ahead of time. So what you presented is what I expected. So I want to thank you. Sometimes you have to spend time learning and understanding how things work out. And I do want to bring up a point. I do think our teachers are highly compensated and I think they deserve it. And the reason why I say that is the cost of living in this state is outrageous. It's not affordable. And I can appreciate where they're coming from because to be honest with you, I see it with the young kids today. They can't afford to even, leave the nest because there's no affordability for housing and that. So that being said, I can understand where they're coming from because I see it across the state. The cost of living is outrageous. And it's getting worse. It's not getting better. Unemployment's at 5.9%.
Okay.
So
Love you.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah. Well, I just want to get that out because it's been bothering me because I can see and understand both sides of the coin. We got to remain in our stable financially and that. So we got to work together. That's all I got to say.
And one more comment, just thank you to the 3 of you, 4 of you for all the hard work and reaching a tentative agreement on Thursday. That was very important to us, everyone. Thank you.
2-year. That's
And to you.
fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for all your effort with
Yeah.
that. So,
Well, thank our partners.
anyone else comments? If not, we will adjourn at 8:10 PM. Thank you.
Thank you, President.
Have a nice week, everyone.
Don't take the train, man. Hey, wait a minute, I better get in there before. Come on, let's go over and let old Brian back. All your favorites.
Next door.
I know, I keep heading out of town, man.
Major flood.
I gotta run in that. Okay.
No, it's okay. Now I get to deal with it. I'm gonna go eat. It's so funny. Okay, Mike.